For centuries, people thought about the year 2000, a year that was futuristic by nature at the dawn of a new millennium. People saw 2000 as the definition of optimism and progress for the future of all mankind. In NASCAR, 2000 was seen as a pinnacle year, defining the sport's growth to a national audience, and retrospectively, it and 2001 defined the sport's greatest what-ifs. As Sunday Night Lights hits the 20th season of a new timeline, a new book opens itself, the 2000s. 2 decades of racing history have been rewritten. Welcome to the year 2000, the beginning of the next era. If 2000 is seen as the future, the 90s were the gateway to it. The past decade has seen the sport progress even quicker than real life. Just a few of its historic moments include the evolution of multi-car teams, 2 female stars, one of whom became a champion, new tracks and new markets, and an international event unlike any other. Now we look to what's ahead, a brand new decade full of possibilities. Who will rise to the top? Will any new names rise higher than real life? And how will some of the sport's veterans, like Dale Earnhardt, Alan Kulwicki, and Bubba Nissen, conclude their careers? It all begins with one season, 2000. Welcome to the next evolution of stock car racing. Now, let's begin with the 2000 Kodak IMSA Stock GT Series season. Last year, we witnessed Bill Lester becoming a back-to-back champion in the series, driving for SS Motorsports. Lester will be moving to the Busch Series this season, leaving the championship wide open for anyone to pounce. Before we get to silly season, there's a big story for the series as it enters its 5th season, a new generation of car. The Stock GT body receives an upgrade to bring the bodies closer to road racers and give the series an even stronger identity, with wider fenders and a wing on the back. This new car will be represented using the MCLM Euro Series mod. For this new gen, Pontiac will be using the Firebird, Ford will enter the Mustang, and Chevrolet brings the Corvette to a new kind of stock car racing. Thank you so much to RoseJam for creating all of the new templates this series will use. Only one schedule change was made for 2000, with a 10th race added to the series. Watkins Glen joins the Stock GT schedule, and it serves as the 8th race of the season. Moving into silly season, let's start off with the SS Motorsports entry. With Bill Lester moving up to full-time Busch Series racing, they bring in Jeff Davis from Chip Ganassi Racing as they pick up new sponsor Ericsson. As for Davis's old ride, that gets taken up by newcomer Tony Ave. He will pilot the number 1 Target Corvette for Chip Ganassi. He will be teammates to Sean Woodside, who continues to pilot the number 2 car. Roush Racing expands to a second team, picking up last year's Rookie of the Year Ryan Hampton to drive the number 60 Bugles Ford. As for Hampton's former ride, Spec Racer Ford Pro driver Amy Rumman takes over the number 16 Cheez-It car for Dyson Racing Team. Over at Irvin Simo Racing, Brian Simo steps away from the 94 ride to help out with the team, as well as No Fear. PJ Jones will take over that ride. Meanwhile, in PJ's old ride at All American Racers, Tom Hubert takes over the number 98. Team Cheever also has a new driver in their number 52, now being driven by former F1 driver Olivier Beretta, replacing Darren Law. AJ Foyt's part-time number 41 is being fielded for Larry Foyt, sponsored by Harris Casino. Scott Pruitt takes over Team Sapco's number 42 after John Andretti moved up to the Busch Series. And lastly, Alfonso Ribeiro continues to race part-time for Hollywood Motorsports. To kick things off at Daytona, Sean Woodside started on the pole as he would go on to lead the early portions of the race. However, it became a fun battle between Mark Simo, Jeff Davis, Boris Said, and eventually Butch Letzinger, who would end up leading for a big chunk of the race. It looked like he was on his way to his first career win, but when green flag pit stops took place with around 9 laps to go, the caution came out. That was because Sean Woodside punted into Scott Pruitt coming off pit road, and since Pruitt wrecked onto the actual racing surface, this caused for the caution to come out. After everything shuffled out, Mark Simo had the lead at the restart, and there was no stopping him as he would hold on for the first win of 2000. For Simo, who got his first win in the series last season, he was ready to break out and take this team to the next level, and he would have a dominating performance in the next race at Sebring, opening 2000 with back-to-back wins, and already looking to be a favorite for the championship. Then, in the next race at Portland, Ryan Hampton, who was looking to make a name for himself at Roush Racing, started on the pole. However, at the drop of the green flag, he did not end up having a good start, giving way to Team Savco's Scott Pruitt. Pruitt would eventually take off with the lead, and he never looked back, dominating the entire race to collect his first career win in the IMSA Stock GT Series. We had some drama late in the race at Lime Rock as Darren Brasfield was dominating for most of the race. However, he was held up by a handful of lapped cars in the closing laps, and this caused Butch Letzinger to erase a 5-second deficit. Letzinger then caught and passed Brasfield for the lead with 3 laps to go, and while Brasfield did everything he could to fight back, Butch Letzinger held on for what would be his long-awaited first career win in the series. Jeff Davis would then go on to have a dominating performance and get the win at Montreal. Darren Brasfield dominated to a win at Mid-Ohio. Mark Simo went on to win at Heartland Park. Jeff Davis would then pick up another win at Watkins Glen. Then Mark Simo held off Ron Fellows to win at the Phoenix Road Course. This all led us to our season finale at Riverside. And going into the final race, Mark Simo had an 86-point lead over Scott Pruitt. And unless anything drastic were to happen, Simo was looking good to lock up the championship. And he would do just that, as he would cap off another dominating performance to his 5th win of the season, and that would secure him the Kodak IMSA Stock GT Series Championship for 2000. What a great moment for him and this Irvin Simo team, as the 40-year-old now can call himself a champion. Now let's take a look at the winners as well as the final standings from the 2000 Kodak IMSA Stock GT Series season. And once again, what an impressive season for Mark Simo. He beat Scott Pruitt in the standings by 143 points. Good seasons for the likes of Sean Woodside, Darren Brasfield, and Jeff Davis. Ron Fellows finishing in 6th. Tony Ave was very impressive in his first year, finishing in 8th. Butch Letzinger, while getting a win finally, however, finished just barely outside the top 10. And there's the look at your top 20 in the standings. Now we move on to the 2000 DuPont Super Sportsman Series season, as last season we witnessed a dominating performance out of Jay Sauter for Richard Childress Racing. Sauter will be moving up to the Busch Series, and we will have more on that later. Much like Stock GT, the Super Sportsman Series also has new car bodies for the season. These cars are taking a more compact approach, as Chevrolet will be fielding the Cavalier, Ford will be fielding the Focus, and Pontiac will be fielding the Sunfire. And once again, thank you to RoseJam for making these templates for the Winston Cup 98 mod. As for the schedule this season, not many changes were made, as it remains at 23 races. Moving on to silly season, and as we previously mentioned, Jay Sauter will be moving up to the NASCAR Busch Series, and with that, this opens the door for Mike Dillon, Richard Childress' son-in-law, to take over the number 31 Realtree Chevrolet. Stanton Barrett was another driver to move up to the Busch Series, which opens up the Nemco 87, which was given to Ron Barfield Jr. after Bill Elliott closed his Super Sportsman team. Bobby Hamilton Jr. gets signed on to drive for Bobby Allison Racing, replacing Buckshot Jones, who also moved up to the Busch Series. Hermie Sadler joins Petty Enterprises to try and find a new footing. He replaces Rich Bickle in the 43. As for Bickle, he takes his veteran presence over to Herzog Motorsports, a brand new team that will also be competing in the NASCAR Busch Series. More on that later. Mario Gosselin had to find a new home after Diamond Ridge closed their doors. Now he drives for Base Motorsports in the number 74. Robbie Reiser steps aside from racing and hires Jason Schuler to drive his number 71, now sponsored by Visine. Another new team coming into the picture is PPC Racing, fielding the number 57 car for Kevin Grubb, who moves over from the Super Truck Series. A couple young stars are going full-time racing this season, which includes Justin Labonte, driving for Joe Gibbs Racing in the number 18, and then there's Ricky Hendrick, driving for his father's team in the number 51. In terms of part-timers, Larry Foyt will share the CC Welliver number 66 with Tina Gordon. Henderson Motorsports will run some races with Kelly Denton and Jeff Foltz splitting the number 75. Michael Rich will drive for Davis & Waite Motorsports in the number 55, sponsored by the Florida Gators. And lastly, Quest Motor Racing, a team co-owned by Derek Cope, will field the number 73 for his two daughters, Amber Cope and Angela Cope. We had an interesting start to the first race of the season, as we had a wreck on lap 3 after Shane Hall went 3 wide, collecting Rick Baldwin, Michael Rich, and Tina Gordon. After the restart, Ron Barfield was all over the back of Ricky Hendrick, getting aggressive early as he went to the quarter panel of the 51, just about turning Hendrick, but he saved it and settled in behind him. Before green flag pit stops, Shelmerdine was slowed up by lap traffic, allowing Barfield and J.D. Gibbs to catch him. After green flag stops, the top 5 jumbled up as J.D. Gibbs, who took the lead before pit stops, assumed the lead, as he would cruise to his second career Super Sportsman win and his first since 1997. In the next race at Rockingham, Jason Jarrett started on the pole and led for the opening portion with teammate Kirk Shelmerdine behind him. Shelmerdine would take the lead after a bit and would lead until the first caution around lap 43. Shane Hall would make a big mistake running into the pit road wall during green flag stops. Shane Hall was okay after this crash. J.D. Gibbs took the lead shortly after the restart and entered a battle with Kirk Shelmerdine and Ricky Hendrick. After the final round of green flag pit stops, Hendrick had a 4-second lead, but that was decimated before long as J.D. Gibbs took the lead back and went on to win back-to-back races to open the season. In the third race of the season at Atlanta, the final run of the race saw Kirk Shelmerdine battling Bobby Hamilton Jr., looking for his first career win in a championship-winning team. Hamilton fought hard and left it all out there, but it was Shelmerdine holding him off for his first win of the year, and out of nowhere, J.D. Gibbs stole second to continue his white-hot start after slowly climbing from a bad qualifying run. Has J.D. Gibbs become a major contender for the championship? At Louisiana, Rich Bickle started on the pole and had the dominant car early, creating a great run for the new Herzog 92 team. Angie Wilson of Phoenix Racing also had a hot start, running second early in the race. However, she would end up fading back. Ultimately, Bickle had to battle Hermie Sadler, driving his former ride, the Petty 43. Sadler made a dramatic pass coming off pit road to take the lead during stops. Then a late caution bunched the field again, and this allowed for Sadler, Bickle, Justin Labonte, and Ron Barfield Jr. to run for the win. Lap traffic allowed Bickle to catch his former team, but Sadler made better use of them. He moved down to the series to find his footing again, and he's found it again quick. Hermie Sadler would go on to win at Louisiana, his first Super Sportsman win, and his first overall win since the 1997 Busch Series season. Bickle finishes second to his former team, but the second place finish was still a great day for Herzog. Mike Dillon had quite the eventful day at Bristol in what has already been a wild start to the season. Dillon took the lead from pole sitter Frank Kimmel, and he had a strong car. But it wasn't easy. The lone caution of the race came for Jeff Fultz making contact with Mike Dillon, going a lap down while Dillon was leading. Dillon had a scraped up right side from going into the wall, but kept the lead and didn't seem to slow down. Lap traffic allowed Kirk Shelmerdine and Bobby Hamilton Jr. to catch Dillon, but even with his side damage, Dillon kept the pace and mastered lap traffic. He may have led over 80% of the race, yet it's hard to say it was dominant with how competitive this race was. In just his 5th start, Mike Dillon gets his first career win at Bristol, and Richard Childress Racing shows they haven't lost a step since their title last year. The first career wins didn't stop there, as Ricky Hendrick would put on a clinic in the very next race at Nazareth to pick up the win. Then, at the next race at I-70 Speedway, Mario Gosselin blew an engine and caused a strange stack-up that wrecked Rich Bickle and sent Rick Baldwin spinning, with leader Justin Labonte catching a piece of Baldwin's spinning bumper. Labonte continued and even finished top 10, but had to pit to repair the damage. That handed the lead to Ricky Hendrick and Mike Dillon, and Hendrick pulled away to take home his second victory in a row in far more eventful fashion. A couple races later at Oswego, Joe Gibbs Racing was looking to have a big day after Justin Labonte and JD Gibbs got by pole sitter Ron Barfield for the lead. A wreck shortly after halfway for Ashton Lewis and Bobby Gearhart split pit strategy, and 2 new faces came to the front, Hermie Sadler and Jason Jarrett. Sadler took the lead from Jarrett with 20 to go, but Jarrett stayed on him in the mix of cutting through traffic. On the final lap, Jarrett went low on the backstretch and he pushed hard into turn 3 using a lapper as a pick and stole it in the final corner. After struggling as a rookie, Jason Jarrett rebounds for his first career win. We had a surprise pole winner a couple races later at South Boston in Kevin Grubb, looking for a great run for the new PPC team. He led early, but an early caution came out when Ashton Lewis, Bobby Gearhart, and Bobby Hamilton Jr. got all together. Hamilton gets some airtime, but Lewis definitely got the worst of it. This would split the field on pit strategy as well. JD Gibbs and Rich Bickle battled for the lead for much of the race. Later on, we had another caution that could be big for the championship. Kirk Shelmerdine getting spun by Rich Bickle. Fortunately for Shelmerdine, he continued on. In the end, it was 19-year-old Justin Labonte getting his second career win after a pass for the lead just after the last restart. We had a fun one here in the Midwest with the 15th race of the season at IRP, as Ron Barfield Jr. started on the pole, but lost the early lead to Ricky Hendrick. Hendrick and Barfield battled for the lead and went back and forth with Jason Schuler, Justin Labonte, and Billy Venturini all in the mix as well. After pit stops, Hendrick made a bold move on the outside to take the lead and ran away for a while. It was a fuel mileage race, one that some didn't see coming, and Hendrick had to pit with some others, handing Billy Venturini a much-needed win after only leading the last 2 laps. That's his first win of the year. Several drivers had their best run of the year as well, including Jason Schuler in 3rd, Frank Kimmel in 6th, and another run for Angela Cope in 12th, while at the same time drivers like Gibbs, Shelmerdine, and Dillon lost some valuable point spots. After this race, Ricky Hendrick held just a 47-point lead over Mike Dillon. JD Gibbs and others were also in the mix. In the next race in the Derby City, Rich Bickle started on the pole, hoping to bring Herzog Motorsports their first win. Instead, it was a side-by-side battle with Kirk Shelmerdine in the opening laps, which by lap 4, Shelmerdine would pull away with the lead, and he would never look back. For the second year in a row, Kirk Shelmerdine wins at Louisville. 2 races later, Kirk Shelmerdine was running away with the lead at North Wilkesboro for a while, but during the pit cycle on lap 62, Shelmerdine finally got a challenger in a unique way. Bobby Hamilton Jr. short-pitted to perfection and barely got ahead of the 32. It quickly erased Shelmerdine's lead. Shelmerdine tried all he could, but he could never catch back up to the lead as Hamilton cut through lap traffic quickly. In the last 10 laps, we did have a yellow for JD McDuffie spinning out, but Hamilton had more than enough lappers to defend the lead. And with that, Bobby Hamilton Jr. gets his first career win at North Wilkesboro. We had quite the prelude to the finale at Nashville, and this was dominated by two of the young guns, with Ricky Hendrick on pole and Justin Labonte beside. The two had a thrilling fight all race long for the lead, driving several seconds away from the pack and trading the lead back and forth thanks to lap traffic. Labonte pulled away from Hendrick after a great pit stop, but Hendrick clawed his way back, all thanks to that good old lap traffic. He could have taken the win with just a bit more time as the 19-year-old Justin Labonte gets his third career win and his second win of the season when it mattered most, and now enters the Daytona Superstretch right in the thick of the title fight. With all of our top 5 in points in the top 10, JD Gibbs does have a slight advantage. However, we have a 5-driver battle for the championship heading into the final race. Much like last season, the Superstretch was run with an A and B main, with the top drivers and points locked into the main event. Frank Kimmel immediately went for the lead as we had a wild start that included a 3-wide battle in the top 8. However, Rene Dupuis made a surprising move past Kimmel for the lead, and right as that happened, Lyndon Amick turned the 11 of Jimmy Foster, setting the 11 around that included Tina Gordon, Randy Porter, and Steve Christian. Everyone continued going, but Foster went a lap down. After the restart, it took a few laps for Dupuis to clear the lap car of Foster, but after that, she would hold off Mario Goslin and Frank Kimmel to go on and win as Rene Dupuis wins the B main. This one's for all the marbles. The A main, as Jason Jarrett started on the pole with Justin Labonte next to him for the final race of the season, as a champion was set to be crowned in the next 75 laps. Jason Jarrett would lead for 1/3 of the race until his Jarrett Favre teammate Kirk Shelmerdine took the lead and proceeded to run away with it. It was a clean race as Kirk Shelmerdine would take home the win to close out 2000. Jason Jarrett was second, JD Gibbs third, Billy Venturini fourth, Hermie Sadler fifth, Justin Labonte sixth, Ricky Hendrick seventh, and Mike Dillon in 10th. At the end of the day, your 2000 DuPont Super Sportsman champion was JD Gibbs. JD Gibbs, the son of Coach Joe Gibbs, with a huge breakout season, and not only that, it definitely was a good turn in the right direction for Joe Gibbs Racing, as they're finding a lot of success suddenly in the lower series. And here are all the winners as well as the final standings from the 2000 NASCAR DuPont Super Sportsman Series season. And once again, a huge congrats to JD Gibbs, as he had a season to remember. Kirk Shelmerdine and Ricky Hendrick have a tiebreaker, as Shelmerdine would break that, having more wins, followed by Justin Labonte and Mike Dillon. There's going to be some drivers that are poised to move up to the Busch Series, and some that are poised to still make a name for themselves going into 2001. And now we move on to the 2000 NASCAR Craftsman Super Truck Series, where last season we saw Tony Roper of Roush Racing take home the championship. He returns to the number 99 truck this season and will look to go back-to-back. Taking a look at the schedule, the Super Truck Series now has a new season opener, as they will be joining Speed Weeks, kicking things off at the World Center of Racing, Daytona. Texas World moves up to the spring along with the Busch Series and Winston Cup. We also have a brand new dirt race on the schedule that will be at Bristol Motor Speedway. The Super Truck Series will share this occasion with the World of Outlaws Sprint Car Series. And lastly, the debut of the brand new SoCal Speedrome in San Diego, as they will share a weekend with the Winston Cup. And now we move on to silly season. We'll start off with the number 75 Spears Motorsports truck as Jimmy Johnson moves up to the NASCAR Busch Series, and the team selects Eric Norris, looking to have a breakout season to replace Johnson. Norris's old ride at Morgan Dollar Motorsports is now being occupied by a 24-year-old from Joplin, Missouri in Jamie McMurray. One of the rookies this season includes Brendan Gong, driving for Bill McAnally Racing, and there's also Scott Riggs, piloting the number 2 truck at Ultra Motorsports. Ron Hornaday Jr. is also moving up to the NASCAR Busch Series, and with that, Dale Earnhardt brings in a friend of his to pilot the number 16. That being Michael Waltrip, now sponsored by Aaron's. Speaking of DEI, their number 3 truck is once again split between Ronnie Hornaday and Scott Bloomquist. Dennis Setzer moves over to the Petty Enterprises number 43 truck, sponsored by Albertsons. Team Renzi opens a truck team with the number 35 being driven by Tony Raines. The Irvin Simo number 44 truck became open after Brian Reffner decided to try his hand at the Busch Series. More on that later, as Stacy Compton takes over the truck. Over at Impact Motorsports, Carlos Contreras takes over Compton's old number 86 RC Cola truck, while Ted Musgrave drives a second truck for the team in the number 68. Mark Gibson moves over to Bobby Hamilton Racing's truck in the number 4. Kurt Busch officially joins Dodge Ram Racing in the number 29, looking to break out this season. And lastly, Joe Gibbs Racing opens a part-time team for 27-year-old Coy Gibbs in the number 18, sponsored by ConAgra Foods. The inaugural Craftsman Super Truck Series race at Daytona may have been one for the ages, perhaps one with a Hollywood ending. In the closing laps, Dodge Ram teammates Cindy Peterson and Ken Schrader were running 1-2, with another driver in Dominic Dobson up there in the mix too. With 2 laps to go, Schrader and Eric Norris went nearly 3 wide into turns 1 and 2, with Eric Norris having an advantage in his former teammate / boss, the lap truck of Tim Richmond. Richmond pushed Norris to the lead, while Dobson, Ronnie Hornaday, and Randy Tulsma all tried to get to Eric Norris. Richmond was still holding his ground well, and Dobson got to second, but it wasn't enough, as Eric Norris, the son of Chuck Norris, brings Spears Motorsports to victory lane at Daytona with a massive thank you to Tim Richmond. In the next race at Phoenix, Tim Richmond and Michael Waltrip led the field to the green flag, but it was Michael Waltrip getting out to an early lead. Then on lap 11, Tony Roper caught up to the 16 to take the lead, looking to get an early win to start off his title defense. About 10 laps later, Chris Trickle, who had not won a truck race since Springfield late in the 1997 season, caught up to Roper and stayed on his tail up until green flag pit stops halfway through the race. Then on lap 48, Chris Trickle caught back up to Tony Roper rather quickly, and he would take the lead. After that, Trickle would pick apart one lap truck after another and would finally return to victory lane at Phoenix. A much needed win for Chris Trickle, as he needed to make some noise in 2000. At the next race at Evergreen, Tim Richmond led for over half of the race until green flag pit stops around lap 72. After those stops cycled, Ken Schrader took over the lead with Tony Roper in second. Then on lap 77, we had some drama as Tony Raines got turned by Jeff Bodine with assistance from Randy Tulsma. After the restart, Tulsma was turned by leader Kurt Busch, who would lose the lead to Jeff Bodine. In an unfortunate sequence of events, Tim Richmond had to pit and shuffle back to 17th, but would end up climbing back up to second, as two-time champ Jeff Bodine took home the win. The 5th race of the season at Atlanta was led early by Barry Bodine and pole sitter Chris Trickle, and it looked like the two would dominate the day. But it became much more competitive late. Greg Biffle took the lead after running down Bodine, looking for a breakthrough win. Not too long after, we had full lines forming like it was a plate race. Tim Richmond, Jack Sprague, Stacy Compton, and Scott Lagasse all fought for the lead. In the end, Greg Biffle took the lead from Jack Sprague with 2 laps to go, but Sprague took it back with a push in turn 1 on the final lap. Stacy Compton pushed him and went low into turn 3, but couldn't make the move, and Jack Sprague wins at Atlanta in a thriller. Also of note, Ronnie Hornaday had a great final run to finish 5th, as the 20-year-old third-gen Hornaday gets his second top 5 in his share ride with Bloomquist. Already looking like he could go full-time in 2001 and maybe be a title contender at this rate. Then at Texas World, a big wreck happened early in the race when Jeff Bodine and Jack Sprague got together, collecting Scott Lagasse, Kenny Irwin Jr., Joe Ruttman, and Ernie Cope. Texas World put on another fantastic race, as in the closing laps, Roush teammates Greg Biffle and Tony Roper were battling side by side for the lead, switching the lead back and forth. With 3 laps to go, Biffle was blocked by the lap truck of Brendan Gaughan, and at first Roper pulled away. That was until 2 laps to go. From out of nowhere, Scott Bloomquist snuck past Tony Roper to take the lead. The dirt track ace, from conquering the dirt racing scene to conquering one of the baddest and fastest ovals there is, Scott Bloomquist wins at Texas World. A shocking win as he wins in the DEI number 3 truck. The Dodge Ram program has had a quiet start to the season, but that all changed in the 9th race of the season at Heartland Park, with Cindy Peterson starting on pole and Schrader in second. Schrader took the lead on the first lap, and he wouldn't look back. It looked like we'd have a Dodge 1-2 battle until Peterson lost some spots during pit stops, and Schrader had to battle Biffle coming off his pit stop, but he pulled back away. After a runner-up in the last race, Ken Schrader takes home the win at Topeka. Also of note, Ronnie Hornaday finishes 4th in another stellar run for that number 3 rotation. Both he and Scott Bloomquist look worthy of upgrades going into next year. The second of 3 new tracks on the schedule, and perhaps the most unique, as the Super Truck Series visit during the World of Outlaws season at Bristol. Chris Trickle started on the pole in this one, looking to rekindle his dirt magic from early in his career, and he would come away with the top 5. But it was another driver who's great on dirt taking the win. That being Tim Richmond, getting his 3rd win of the year at this point, also bringing home a great points day, as his rival and fellow dirt racer Ken Schrader had an issue and finished 2 laps down. It is to note that he also won at Knoxville earlier in the season, and Richmond will go for the dirt sweep at Devil's Bowl in the fall. Then, the 14th race at Michigan set us up for yet another wild finish. So to set things up, the caution came out with 11 laps to go as a few leaders began green flag pit stops as Dennis Setzer went up into Mike Bliss, collecting Jack Sprague and Ronnie Hornaday. The 4-truck pileup gives us a restart with 6 laps to go, as McMurray stays out with a slim chance to make it on fuel and collect his first career win. McMurray led the field back to the green flag with Tim Richmond 2nd, Cindy Peterson 3rd, Tony Raines 4th, and Michael Waltrip 5th. And it didn't take long for Cindy Peterson to get side by side with McMurray to take the lead. But with McMurray stuck on the outside, he ran out of gas and held up several leaders. This created a 6-truck pack battling for the lead between Peterson, Randy McDonald, Coy Gibbs, Tony Raines, Ernie Irvin, and Ted Musgrave. McDonald had a shot at the lead as he battled with Peterson with 3 to go, but Peterson made a power move on the outside to hold on to the lead. This allowed for Coy Gibbs to make a move for 2nd with 2 laps to go. Ernie Irvin would follow suit. Gibbs was on the move coming to the white flag as Cindy Peterson continued to lead. Going into turn 1, there was a 3-wide battle for second between Gibbs, Irvin, and Musgrave. Peterson caught up to McMurray, who had to pit. She goes to the inside of him going into turn 3, but she got held up by the damaged truck of Ronnie Hornaday. Ernie Irvin had a shot to steal it, but got blocked by Peterson as Coy Gibbs swung past Peterson and Irvin to steal the win. Coy Gibbs with his first career win at Michigan. And this comes as his brother JD Gibbs is tearing up the circuit in Super Sportsman. What a big year this has been for Joe Gibbs Racing. The inaugural Craftsman Super Truck Series race at the SoCal Speedrome definitely gave us a memorable finish to talk about, as it was a battle at the end of the race between Tim Richmond and Chris Trickle. After green flag pit stops, Chris Trickle was leading the way as he and Tim Richmond fought through lap traffic. They were bumper to bumper with 4 laps to go, but coming to 3 to go, Tim Richmond got past Chris Trickle on the outside for the lead. Richmond tried to pull away, but Chris Trickle came fighting back. Coming to the white flag, Trickle went to the outside of Richmond and took the lead right back. Despite fighting the lap traffic and losing the lead lap, it was Chris Trickle winning the inaugural race at SoCal, and perhaps something that could help him towards the championship. We had some championship implications at the 20th race of the season in Memphis, as Tim Richmond took the lead from pole sitter Michael Waltrip early. But just before halfway, Richmond had a mechanical issue from the lead. He rode the apron a full lap and nearly started an accident, and while he continued, he was 3 laps down and finished as the last car running. The front of the field saw Chris Trickle and Stacy Compton duel before Scott Lagasse joined the party and took the lead. But then just a few laps later, Compton took it back in traffic and finally puts his ride upgrade to use for the first time in 3 full years. Stacy Compton goes back to victory lane, his first win at Irvin SEMO, and Ken Schrader came away with another top 10. And just like that, as you look at the standings here, Tim Richmond's title lead is gone. The second to last race of the season was a thriller in St. Louis. Scott Lagasse started on pole and battled Chris Trickle, looking for a win that would serve him very well. Lagasse held him off early, but following pit stops, Trickle was much faster and the two battled. Trickle used lap traffic to pull ahead. That was until his teammate Stacy Compton arrived and was battling for the win. Compton barely cleared for the lead, but the next lap Chris Trickle got back around. And despite them, the truck whacker and owner Ernie Irvin stole third from Lagasse. Despite a bit of physicality between teammates, Chris Trickle wins at Gateway, leading a 1-2-3 for Irvin SEMO. He keeps his title hopes alive, but doesn't make up too much ground, as Tim Richmond finished in 6th and Ken Schrader was 9th. Heading into the season finale at Las Vegas, Tim Richmond held his points lead, but Chris Trickle was only 86 points back and Ken Schrader back by 91. These two were most likely to contend Richmond for the title, and you know the saying, it's not over until it's over. This one's for all the marbles. Tim Richmond looks to earn a title, Chris Trickle looks to have a storybook moment to win the title in his hometown, and Ken Schrader looks to show he has what it takes still. Hendrick Motorsports locked up the front row as Scott Lagasse led the field to the green flag. Chris Trickle started 9th, Tim Richmond started 13th, and Ken Schrader was 20th. At the drop of the green flag, Trickle and Richmond immediately moved their way up the field. They quickly showed that they had the best trucks. Jack Sprague took an early lead from Lagasse, but on lap 9 we had an early caution as Lance Norrick ran into Butch Gilliland, sending Gilliland spinning into the wall. Gilliland would keep going. The entire field went down pit road for service. Then Jack Sprague led Jeff Bodine, Chris Trickle, Tim Richmond, and Ronnie Hornaday back to the green flag on lap 15 of 67. And with that, Tim Richmond suddenly had a rocket. Richmond went to the lead just 8 laps later as Chris Trickle worked to get past Jack Sprague for second. Eventually, Chris Trickle would take second. Then, with 28 laps to go, Richmond, among others, began the first round of green flag pit stops. If the race were to go green the rest of the way, it could be cutting it very close. Chris Trickle would pit 1 lap later. With 20 laps to go, Tim Richmond had a 2.5 second lead over Trickle. But Trickle, along with Lagasse and Sprague, began to reel in Richmond. Sprague did take second from Trickle at one point, but Trickle would then take it back. With 7 to go, Chris Trickle wanted to at least get the win in his home race. However, when it all looked like that Tim Richmond was going to walk away with the championship, drama took place. Coming to 3 laps to go, Tim Richmond had to pit. Richmond did not have enough fuel to get to the end, and he was the only one of the main leaders to pit. Scott Lagasse had gotten around Trickle for what would be the lead, and Tim Richmond was just too short to keep going. Scott Lagasse would go on to close out 2000 with another win at Las Vegas, with Chris Trickle in second. Thanks to that, this changed everything. Final lap of the season here at Las Vegas, and everything has changed. Now, as long as he holds his position, Chris Trickle will claim the championship for 2000. What a special moment this is going to be for him. In front of his hometown crowd, in front of his friends and family. He's come a long way. He needed to have a make-or-break season for this year, and he has taken full advantage of it. Up turn 4, checkered flag. Scott Lagasse wins, and Chris Trickle is your champion for 2000. In his hometown of Las Vegas, Chris Trickle, the nephew of Dick Trickle, takes home the Craftsman Super Truck Series Championship for 2000 in what might just be a pivotal moment in his racing career. Now the question is, what is next for Chris Trickle? And perhaps he may look for a move up in 2001. With that being said, here are all the winners and your final standings from the 2000 Craftsman Super Truck Series season. Absolute heartbreak for Tim Richmond, as he was just a few laps away from a championship. And instead, because he was short on fuel, he comes up 15 points short. Dodge Ram Racing looked very solid as Schrader finished third and Peterson was fourth. Michael Waltrip impressed in his DEI truck despite not winning a race. Roush Racing also gets both trucks in the top 10. Kurt Busch hopes to build off for even a better season in 2001. Eric Norris, despite winning at Daytona, finishes 14th. As you take a look at the top 30 in standings from this year's NASCAR Craftsman Super Truck Series season. Now we move on to the International Race of Champions, known as IROC, as ARCA stars Frank Kimmel and Tim Steele gave the field a run for their money last season. But in the end, it was Rusty Wallace taking home the glory, winning his third IROC championship and his third in 4 years. To start things off, here are the 12 drivers that will represent IROC 2000. One quick note to make, because Kenny Brack instead chose to pursue NASCAR in this timeline, he does not race in IndyCar, and therefore doesn't win the Indy 500 in 1999. As such, in real-life second-place finisher Jeff Ward wins it instead and receives the Indy winner's bid to this year's IROC season. The schedule also remains the same as it did last season, with races being at Daytona, Calder Park, Michigan, and Indianapolis. To start things off, it was a crazy race at Daytona that saw so many changes. But with 3 laps to go, Patty Moyes was leading with Juan Pablo Montoya in second. Down the backstretch, Montoya got to the inside, and with help from Greg Ray, Montoya took the lead coming to 2 laps to go. But that didn't last long as Greg Ray took the lead going into turn 1. Tony Stewart was moving his way up and reached second coming to the white flag. But Craig Lowndes swallowed up second place before Stewart had a shot at the win. Down the backstretch, Lowndes got to the inside of Greg Ray and he had Kyle Petty fast approaching. But it was Craig Lowndes with the win at Daytona. As for the next race at Calder Park, there was one driver that put on an absolutely dominant performance, that being our defending Winston Cup champion, Ernie Irvan. He started the race from the pole and he never looked back as he went on to win in the Land Down Under. After some late pit stops in the third race of the season at Michigan, Greg Ray took the lead from Shauna Robinson, but Shauna would fight back hard, and with 2 laps to go, she took the lead right back with Jeff Green chasing them down. However, Jeff Green ran out of time, and Shauna Robinson went on to win at Michigan. And heading into the final race at the Brickyard, we have a fun title fight. Craig Lowndes and Ernie Irvan are tied for the points lead, with Kyle Petty and Jeff Green right behind them. In the early going of the final race of the season, Jeff Green had a ton of speed and led for the first half of the race. But Ernie Irvan began working his way through the field. And after the first round of green flag pit stops, Irvan took the lead from Jeff Green, looking to seal the deal on the championship. They stayed close to each other until the very end, but Green wasn't able to get around Irvan. Bill Baird and Tony Stewart, however, were 1-2 after the late round of pit stops, and they managed to stretch it on fumes as the ARCA champion, Bill Baird, went on to win at Indianapolis in a stunner. In the end, however, it was defending Winston Cup champion Ernie Irvan taking home the IROC title for 2000. Ernie Irvan continues this great stretch he's been on since joining AK Racing, and now that includes taking home the IROC Championship as you take a look at your winners and the final standings from IROC 2000. We definitely had a fun set of winners this season as Ernie Irvan takes home the title 4 points over Bill Baird and 5 points over Jeff Green. Now we head into the 2000 NASCAR Busch Series season as we are witnessing the next generation of superstars making their names and leaving their marks. In 1999, Tony Stewart went on to capture the championship, and he will be moving up to the Winston Cup full-time this season. We will talk about him later, but for now, let's start by diving into the schedule as we have 2 major additions this season. First, of course, is the SoCal Speedrome, which shares the triple-header weekend. And, for the first time ever, the NASCAR Busch Series is heading overseas. The 11th race of the season will take place at the Twin Ring Motegi in Japan, as NASCAR looks to grow their international footprint going into the 21st century. This race will also be held during a Winston Cup off week, allowing a few of NASCAR stars to make the trip if they so choose. We have one other small announcement to make ahead of the Busch season, that being for something all new added to the series. Introducing the Slick 50 Busch Series Heritage Cup. This is a new bonus event being added to the series, hosted across 4 Winston Cup companion events. Here's how it works. A $250,000 cash bonus will be awarded to the Heritage Cup winner. All drivers, including Winston Cup regulars, are eligible for the prize, which will go to the most points accumulated in the 4 races among race winners. In other words, the Heritage Cup bonus goes to the race winner who earned the most points over the 4 rounds. For its inaugural outing, the Heritage Cup will consist of Daytona, the Spring Charlotte race, Darlington, and North Wilkesboro, with the races set to rotate each season. This unique promotion provides a new incentive for NASCAR stars to compete with the rising stars of the Busch Series, and allows up-and-comers to make a statement. An exciting season is upon us, but first, we move on to silly season. Starting things off, Randy LaJoie replaces Jeff Fuller in the 09 at Phoenix Racing. Ron Hornaday Jr. moves up to the NASCAR Busch Series, staying in Dale Earnhardt's program, taking over the number 3, now sponsored by Napa. Not only that, but Kerry Earnhardt slides into the DEI program, officially taking over the number 14, now sponsored by Bass Pro Shops. PPC Racing also enters the Busch Series this season with a 2-car program, the number 10 Nesquik Chevrolet being driven by Toby Porter, and the number 57 Excedrin Chevrolet being driven by Jason Keller. Up-and-coming racer from USAC, Jason Leveler, replaces David Bonnet in the number 12 at Bobby Allison Racing, with Castrol GTX now sponsoring the car. As for David Bonnet, he moves over to Herzog Motorsports in the number 92. Brian Reffner moves up to the NASCAR Busch Series as he will be joining Team Menard to drive the number 13. He will also make a few Winston Cup starts with the team as well. Richard Childress Racing shakes some things up in their Busch Series program as Jay Sauter moves up from the Super Sportsman Series to take over the number 31, replacing Mike Skinner with new sponsor AC Delco. RCR also opens a second car in the number 21, and they bring up Jimmy Johnson from the NASCAR Craftsman Super Truck Series. Brett Bodine drives for himself in the number 11 Ralph's Ford. As for Mike Skinner, he stays in the Busch Series, but he moves over to Express Motorsports in the number 16 Pontiac. Joe Gibbs Racing opens up a Busch Series program this season, the number 18, being driven by young Casey Atwood. Buckshot Jones joins other drivers moving up from the Super Sportsman Series as he pilots the number 25 with the brand new Team Renzi Motorsports. Two-time Stock GT champion Bill Lester makes the jump up to the Busch Series, driving the number 34 for CC Welliver Racing. Hank Parker Jr. and his family operation also make the leap up to the Busch Series with their number 53 entry. After struggling in the Winston Cup, Jeff Burton takes a step down to the Busch Series and joins Base Motorsports in the number 74. John Andretti joins Bill Lester as drivers to move up from Stock GT as he replaces Tommy Kendall in the number 82 with new sponsor TractPhone. Tommy Kendall does move up to the Winston Cup. Kenny Brack and Ricky Hendrick will be splitting time in the Hendrick Motorsports number 51. That car will run part-time. Stanton Barrett will run full-time in the Busch Series in the number 87 for Joe Nemechek's team. Tim Fudua takes over the 93, formerly the 23, as Paige Jones also got to move up to the Winston Cup as well. And lastly, Dale Earnhardt Jr. will run most of the Busch Series season to get more experience. DEI will also enter a second part-time car, the number 15, which will be primarily driven by Kelly Earnhardt. In addition, Japanese native Hideo Fukuyama will drive this car at Motegi and then comes stateside for a road course race at Riverside. Scott Bloomquist will also run this car as a one-off in the finale at Atlanta. And Team Sapco continues to operate the number 45 with multiple drivers, as the number also gets a font change. Of course, being teammates to Adam Petty, who will be one to watch this season. Adam Petty started on the pole with Kenny Brack starting second as we kicked off the 2000 season at Daytona. The lead was shared among many different drivers, as expected for a race at the 2.5-mile circuit. Some of the front runners included the likes of Petty, Brack, Jimmy Johnson, Kerry Earnhardt, and Clifford Allison. At the halfway point, we had one scuffle in the race where we were 4 wide towards the back as Casey Atwood didn't clear Bobby Labonte, sending Atwood up the track and into Kenny Brack, who was an unfortunate victim. Atwood and Brack kept going with damage, and it wasn't enough to bring out a caution. Both would get lapped at one point in the race, and in the end, no one ended up pitting late, and we had an exciting run to the finish. With 2 laps to go, Jay Sauter led the way with Brett Bodine, Johnny Benson, Blaze Alexander, and Mark Martin in contention to win. Despite Alexander just being held up by the lap car of Kenny Brack, he soared right back with help from Mark Martin. Going into turn 3, he got around Brett Bodine for second, then coming to the white flag, Blaze Alexander got to the inside of Jay Sauter, and he was able to take the lead. Stanton Barrett got to second, but then was challenged by Benson for that position, and thanks to that, it was Blaze Alexander blazing his own path to glory as he picks up the win at Daytona. The Richard Childress Racing rookie Jimmie Johnson started on pole in the next race at Rockingham, but he didn't have a great start, and because of that, bushwhacker Patty Moyes in the 45 took the lead. Moyes dominated the first two-thirds of the race, but a caution from Mike McLaughlin wrecking changed strategies late in the race. Moyes fell to third before the restart, with Kelly Williams in the lead and Jimmie Johnson second. And after a bad initial start, Jimmie Johnson took advantage, nailing the restart to take the lead. Williams closed in with 5 laps to go after she got around lap traffic, but even in a completely clear duel, she never got a run. It's a first career win alert, and a notable one at that, as El Cajon, California's Jimmie Johnson wins in just his second race at Richard Childress Racing. He may have started on pole, but he certainly had to work for this one. Perhaps a bright future for young Jimmie Johnson. It was an eventful one in the Sin City for the third race of the season, as we had an early bushwhacker battle between pole sitter Jeff Gordon and Patty Moyes, when suddenly the two made contact and things suddenly went south for Jeff Gordon. He had a tire going down as he had to slow down and get to the apron quick, creating a huge mess that luckily did not cause a major wreck. The race would stay green and Gordon pitted. Both Richard Childress cars DNF'd, with last week's winner Jimmie Johnson falling out with a camshaft issue, and then Jay Sauter getting caught up in a wreck. In the end, it was a bushwhacker battle up front, with Patty Moyes running well again, plus 2 Cup rookies doing double duty in Dale Jr. and Kenny Brack. Ultimately, the Swede, Kenny Brack, got a run and pulled away late for the win, after being last year's most improved driver and earning a promotion. Could this be a good sign for his Cup debut season? You'll just have to find out in a little bit. The 6th race at Louisiana was an exciting one, as Adam Petty started on pole and led early, with a wild start behind involving Kelly Williams, Patty Moyes, Ron Hornaday, and John Andretti nearly going 4 wide. Ron Hornaday pulled ahead to second as he and Adam Petty had the 2 best cars early. Hornaday ultimately made a pass during the pit cycle and became the one to beat. We had a late yellow for a big wreck involving Ricky Johnson, Hut Strickland, David Bonnet, and Stanton Barrett, setting up a 15-lap shootout, where Ron Hornaday had to hold off youngsters Jason Leveler in just his 6th start and Kelly Williams. Leveler nearly made an outside pass, but just couldn't make it stick. And then the 3-car pulled away as Ron Hornaday Jr. picked up his first career Busch Series win at Louisiana Motor Speedway. Another short track that provided a fun, exciting race was 2 races later at Bristol, as Kenny Brack started on pole and led early, but more notably was Kevin Harvick running second for much of the early going. Now the start wasn't wild, as Brack got out to as much as a 9-second lead, but that lead was cut down after Brian Reffner was involved in the wreck. That's when things went crazy. The rookie, Jason Leveler, in just his 8th Busch start, took the lead shortly after the restart as lap traffic cycled behind. We were set up for a chaotic race to the finish. Leveler was passed by Blaze Alexander, who battled with his friend Jimmie Johnson. In a chaotic battle of tires and lap traffic, we saw 5 different leaders in the final 25 laps, with Brack and Leveler falling out of the lead to Alexander and Johnson. That was before Dale Earnhardt Jr. came from nowhere to take the lead with a great inside run with 8 to go. But Kenny Brack himself came back to take the lead with 3 to go. The race ended under yellow following a major pileup with 2 laps to go, and taking the white and yellow together, Kenny Brack got his second win of the year for the part-time Hendrick car in a cinematic end to this one. For a driver with an open-wheel background, Kenny Brack certainly has gotten good at the short tracks. For the first time ever, the NASCAR Busch Series is racing in Japan. A few Japanese drivers also made an appearance, including Hideo Fukuyama, driving the number 15 for DEI. The other Japanese drivers in the field include Motohiro Nakajima driving the number 91 for Emerald Performance Group, and Keiichi Tsuchiya driving the number 5 for Jimmy Spencer. Jeff Gordon led the field to the green flag along with teammate Tim Futua, as he would go on to lead for the first half of the race. Then during green flag pit stops, Jeff Gordon was the first to pit, but then he came back down the very next lap with a loose wheel. This would eventually hand the lead over to Adam Petty, and in second was Hideo Fukuyama. Fukuyama started in 37th and worked his way to 11th before pit stops. Now he was second, and while he was cutting down from a 5-second deficit, Ron Hornaday Jr. overtook him for second late as Adam Petty picks up a monumental win in Japan. Early on in the season, Blaze Alexander held a 92-point lead over Kelly Williams and a 148-point lead over Adam Petty. In the next couple of races, the race in Charlotte was dominated by Bushwhackers, as Patty Moyes led a top 4 of her fellow Cup Series competitors to a win, while Kevin Harvick was the best series regular in 5th. Then after that at Mid-Ohio, it was a battle between two drivers looking for their first wins, John Andretti and Scott Pruitt. While Andretti won the pole, it was Pruitt taking off and getting an advantage on the start. After that, the field had nothing to answer for Pruitt's domination, as Scott Pruitt, gifted road racer, goes on to get his first career Busch Series win. At the 14th race of the season at the Milwaukee Mile, we witnessed the Busch Series debut of Ricky Hendrick, and it peaked in qualifying with a stunning second-place start to Kerry Earnhardt, though he was a non-factor in the race itself. A wreck happened on the very first lap involving Bill Lester, Hutch Strickland, and Mike Wallace after a failed save on the backstretch, and this caused the field to split to different strategies. Adam Petty, Ron Hornaday Jr., and Blaze Alexander found themselves to be the 3 best cars all day, but in a massive turn of events, Adam Petty wrecked coming off pit road amidst his battle with Alexander. He took the entrance too wide like he was unsure and hit the entrance, ending what could have been a winning day. Adam Petty was okay after the crash, and after stops cycled, it was Blaze Alexander versus Kerry Earnhardt for the win, with Alexander getting his second win of the year, helping his quest towards the championship. While John Andretti came up short to Scott Pruitt at Mid-Ohio, it was a different story in the next road course race at Daytona. Andretti went wire to wire with Kenny Brack, and despite Brack's best efforts, he would eventually fall to 3rd after being passed by Adam Petty late, as John Andretti would collect his first career Busch Series win. Kelly Williams and Jeff Gordon led the field to the green flag for the inaugural Busch Series race at the SoCal Speedrome. Williams led the way early on until the first round of green flag pit stops, as Williams and Gordon made contact coming off pit road. They kept going as Gordon took the lead. However, he would eventually be run down by Patty Moyes, who was hanging out with Gordon and Williams throughout the race. Moyes took the lead thanks to lap traffic holding Jeff Gordon back, and she would cruise away with the win in San Diego. In the 18th race of the season at Myrtle Beach, Ron Hornaday Jr. started on the pole and was dominant early, but we need to talk about the late stage of this one. Hornaday was ran down by Tim Futua And in just his second Busch Series start, Ricky Hendrick. Hendrick was running top 5 all day and had something to prove after his falling back at Milwaukee. Ricky used lap traffic to take the lead before a late pit cycle, but things got more interesting when Tim Futua was spun from second place. After the cycle, only one car stayed out. Toby Porter in the PPC Racing number 10, looking for a win at a track he's raced at for years. We restarted with 5 laps to go, and Porter had a section of lap cars between him and Hendrick, but Ricky Hendrick cut his way through. It was a thrilling battle for the win between 2 Super Sportsman winners, and when all was said and done, on the final lap, Ricky Hendrick got to his inside and made it stick in turn 3. And in just his second start in the series, Ricky Hendrick steals the win at Myrtle Beach. What an upset, and I'm sure there are talks now of him moving up full-time next season. In the 20th race at IRP, we had a very rare caution-free short-track race, but it was still a fun one. Tim Futua started on the pole and led for much of the race, but couldn't get away from the 2 Richard Childress rookies, that being Jimmy Johnson, who was going for his second win, and Jay Sauter going for his first. With 25 to go, lap traffic finally got the better of Futua, and Sauter made his way to the lead. Jimmy Johnson battled Futua through the final segment, and while Futua broke up an RCR 1-2, Jay Sauter went on to get his first Busch Series win, and does so on a track much like the ones he dominated in Super Sportsman. 2 races later at Michigan, Jay Sauter started on pole, but it wasn't going to be easy for him as he was challenged by Kerry Earnhardt immediately for the lead. Kelly Williams and Tim Futua were also in contention and ran up front. Sauter took the lead around lap 20 when the first round of green flag pit stops took place. Then the caution came out when there was a wreck between Kerry Earnhardt and Casey Atwood on pit road. There was also an incident where Jimmy Johnson got into John Andretti coming off pit road, sending Andretti up the track, causing Toby Porter and Clifford Allison to run into him. In the end, Jason Leveler was fast, looking for his first career win, but with 2 laps to go, here came Tim Futua. Futua took the lead and would go on to win for his second win of the season. Even though Blaze Alexander was dominating all day long at North Wilkesboro, Shauna Robinson would eventually chase him down and take the lead, as Robinson took home the win. Tim Futua began to insert himself into the championship scene as he and Williams were within 100 points. But as you can see, Blaze Alexander continues to hold his own with a 160-point lead. Blaze did have something else to celebrate though, as this race wrapped up the inaugural Busch Series Heritage Cup. With Sapco's number 45 car being a rotation, the battle came down to Blaze Alexander and Mark Martin, to which the youngster narrowly beat the former Cup champion by just 6 points. Daytona winner Blaze Alexander brought home the inaugural Heritage Cup bonus and is closing in on the main championship to boot. In the next race at Memphis, Jay Sauter started on pole and looked dominant for about half of the race, but that was until Tim Futua got past him as he looks to continue to chase the championship. Futua hangs on as he fights off lap traffic to go on and win in Memphis. At the fall race in Charlotte, Adam Petty started on the pole and led for a few laps, but then dropped back once Jeff Gordon took the lead on lap 7. Later on, Kelly Earnhardt would take the lead after the first round of green flag pit stops. It looked like she was on her way to a dominating win until with 29 to go, she came down for her final scheduled stop. Then she came off pit road and would run right into Kevin LePage, slamming the wall in turn 3 and causing damage that ended her day. Jeff Gordon would take control and go on to win. Then in the last handful of races, Dale Earnhardt Jr. won at Talladega, Jerry Nadeau beat Tony Stewart late in the going at Gateway, Patty Moyes would win at Riverside with Hideo Fukuyama finishing in 5th, Kelly Williams passed Jimmy Johnson late at Phoenix to pick up the win there, and Then in the second to last race at Homestead, Kelly Williams was leading and was in position to win. Until 2 laps to go, however, when Blaze Alexander chased her down and got into an exciting side-by-side battle with her. Then on the final lap, coming off turn 2, Blaze Alexander was able to clear Williams and take the win and most likely lock up the championship. Blaze Alexander entered the season finale with a 201-point lead, and at that point, he had nothing to worry about. As Dale Earnhardt Jr. would close out the 2000 season with his 3rd win of the season, Blaze Alexander would capture the NASCAR Busch Series Championship for 2000 and in dominating fashion. What a huge season for Blaze Alexander, and I'm sure there's a good chance he could be moving up to the big time next season. And here is a look at all the winners and the final standings from the 2000 Busch Series season. Certainly a dominating season for one Blaze Alexander, and certainly the season he needed to prove himself that he is ready for the NASCAR Winston Cup. And there's a look at your standings as you see a 201-point win over Kelly Williams. A lot of stars definitely shined this season, and there's still a lot of stars that are trying to make a name for themselves, and they're going to try to do so again in 2001. And now, it is time for the 2000 NASCAR Winston Cup Series season. Last season, we saw the meteoric rise of Ernie Irvan as he captured the Winston Cup Championship. Irvan had an amazing turnaround in his career since joining AK Racing. Now, at age 40, he looks to defend and perhaps even collect another championship. Looking at the schedule for 2000, as mentioned earlier, SoCal Speedrome will make its debut, sharing with the Busch Series and Super Truck Series. However, SoCal isn't the only new venue joining the circuit. Also joining the Winston Cup slate is Chicago Motor Speedway. The Cicero, Illinois venue will also have a summer date, adding 2 new exciting markets to the calendar. As a result of NASCAR's change in strategy, they elect to work with Chicago Motor Speedway instead of building Chicagoland Speedway in Joliet. The Winston Cup Series hosts 36 points-paying events this season, which NASCAR says will remain the cap for the foreseeable future. As for the All-Star Race, it will be celebrating the sport's history at a time where it rides to the future. Darlington closes out its 50th anniversary celebration by hosting the 2000 Winston, with its spring points race transferred to SoCal for the season. And lastly, the International Exhibition will move to a new country in 2000 following 2 successful years at Twin Ring Motegi. This year, the event instead heads to South America. NASCAR will be racing at the Emerson Fittipaldi Speedway in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. This flat trapezoid oval track was used by kart at the time in real life and will now play host to the top Winston Cup drivers and some invitees from other series in November. As expected following last season, the 2000 Winston Cup Rookie of the Year battle could be the greatest in NASCAR history, with 7 rookies, many of whom are in rides that could go for race wins. But before that, let's talk about the biggest story that doesn't have to do with the rookies, that being Mark Martin. After nearly 3 decades in the sport, Budmore Engineering decided to cease operations and sell their equipment. While Martin did bring the team more success in the 90s, Moore decided to take a step back, leaving Mark on the hunt for a new ride. Where does he end up? Well, after over a decade, it's a reunion. Mark Martin returns to Roush Racing for 2000, this time taking over the number 16 Ford. Mars continues to sponsor the ride while transitioning their primary brand from Twix to M&M's. Tim Steele will remain in Roush's number 6 Valvoline Ford, and as for the 16's previous driver, Tammy Jo Kirk, she was let go by Roush following her lack of performance at the Cup level. She finds her footing with a team new to the Winston Cup, Galaxy Motorsports. Tammy Jo Kirk moves into the new number 75 Ford as the team moves up and switches manufacturers. Red Cell Batteries will be her primary sponsor, with Pizza Hut also sponsoring the team at some races. The next big move to occur involves the 1993 Winston Cup champion, Ricky Rudd. Amid the rebuild ongoing at Hendrick Motorsports, Rudd and Mr. H mutually agreed to part ways. That number 25 car will be driven by our first contender for Rookie of the Year, the Swede, Kenny Brack. After a successful Busch Series tenure that included a breakout for Hendrick, he and MasterCard move up to the Winston Cup level. Ricky Rudd, meanwhile, leaves Hendrick for a greater opportunity in 2001. Over the offseason, Rudd signed on to become a leading driver for the return of Dodge to the NASCAR Winston Cup Series. We'll talk about more of the details later, but Rudd will be signing a one-year deal with another team before moving to Ray Evernham's new Dodge flagship team in 2001. Ricky Rudd, as well as sponsor Gatorade, will spend this season with a brand new single-car team, Celebrity Motorsports. This was a team that, in real life, never came to be. A team to be owned by former NFL players Jim Brown and Willie Lanier. The new team will use number 63, Lanier's former NFL number, and will field Pontiacs for 2000. While Rudd will only be with the team for 1 year, this team looks to build a presence in the sport for years to come, and could become part of the Dodge program as well if they exceed expectations. Moving on to the rest of the rookie class, multiple of our rookies will be part of the new entries. To begin, Matt Kenseth goes full-time in the number 12 DuPont Ford, a third full-time car for Penske. Paige Jones, meanwhile, moves into a second Bill Davis Racing car, the number 93, sponsored by Circuit City, with Sega's co-partnership returning for some races. Over at Dale Earnhardt Incorporated, they also open a second car for the Busch Series champion, Tony Stewart. The new number 15 Pennzoil Chevrolet goes full-time, and hot off his fresh Busch Series title, the Indiana native now has his eyes set on Rookie of the Year. Now, what about Dale Earnhardt Jr.? As mentioned earlier, he moved up to the Winston Cup while running much of the Busch schedule with DEI. The Earnhardt team was in a challenging situation with concerns about jumping from 1 to 3 full-time cars in one season. As such, the Earnhardts worked out a unique deal for Dale Jr. with one of GM's new teams, AJ Foyt Enterprises. Here's the deal. Dale Earnhardt Jr. will drive full-time for Foyt in 2000, driving the number 8 Nabisco Oreo Pontiac. Dale Jr. and the number 8, honoring Ralph Earnhardt, will move back to DEI with a third car in 2001, pending any setbacks. Dale Sr. said, quote, "Aligning my family and team with another of the greatest names in American racing is going to help both of us find our footing. We can learn from each other. And as my team grows and the whole Foyt camp enters the sport, we wanted to surprise people while still giving DEI the chance to grow, both now and another year from now." Moving on to our last couple of rookies, Tommy Kendall and Sony move up to Jarrett Favre's number 32 car following his success in the Busch Series. Former driver and co-owner Dale Jarrett, who struggled to find his footing in the Winston Cup, steps away from full-time racing now, but he will be entering the Daytona 500 and a few other events in a second JFM car while transitioning to a pure ownership role with this fast-growing team. And lastly is the biggest wild card of the class. As mentioned before, Jeff Burton left Andy Petree's team and returned to the Busch Series. The number 33 Cartoon Network car has a new full-time driver competing for Rookie of the Year. That being Al Unser Jr. In real life, Unser seriously considered racing in NASCAR for a few years following his retirement from open-wheel racing, but the opportunity never came to be. You may remember he raced part-time last year, and as NASCAR continues to evolve, the 38-year-old is out to exceed expectations, much like his fellow open-wheeler Kenny Brack has done. As for some notable part-timers, Ron Fellows will make a few road course starts in the number 47 for Team Sapco, and the car will host the first ever Cup starts for young Adam Petty. The second Jarrett Favre car mentioned earlier that's going to be driven by Dale Jarrett will also be driven by Kelly Williams. Both drivers will be sponsored by Home Depot. Blaze Alexander will also make a few Winston Cup starts in a Fort Penske car, the number 02 Mobil 1 Ford. Eddie Bierschwell moves over to Cal Wells' new team, the number 96 Viagra Ford for PPI Motorsports. And teams such as Midwest Racing, Joe Bessie Racing, and the Wood Brothers scaled down to part-time. Team Menard will be attempting some Winston Cup races, as mentioned earlier, with Brian Reffner making some starts, and USAC star Ryan Newman will also make his NASCAR debut for this team, running 2 races late in the season. And lastly, 2000 will mark the final season for 1982 champion Darrell Waltrip. At age 53, DW will step away from the racing scene and go into a career in broadcasting starting in 2001. Congratulations to Darrell Waltrip on an amazing and legendary career. And now let's jump into Speed Weeks 2000. We start off Speed Weeks with the 2000 Bud Shootout as Kyle Petty started on the pole and Davey Allison started next to him in second. It was a fun race that consisted of several different leaders and lead changes in a 20-lap race. Rob Moroso was able to hold on to the lead when he took the lead on lap 6, but then lost it to Rusty Wallace on lap 10. Wallace would then lead for a few laps. Then the lead went from Wallace to Kyle Petty to John Nemechek. Then, with 5 laps to go, Tim Steele took the lead with Dick Trickle in second. Coming to 3 to go, it was Davey Allison taking the lead from Steele, and despite Jeff Green, Rob Moroso, and others giving it their all, it was Davey Allison finally returning to victory lane, winning the shootout. Moving on now to the dual races. As for dual race number 1, Alan Kawicki started on the pole with Patty Moyes next to him, which means Kawicki will lead the field to the green flag for the 42nd Daytona 500. Per usual, the lead shifted around early, but Patty Moyes looked strong halfway through the race. However, she lost the lead with 9 laps to go, which opened the door for many more lead changes. Jeff Green led with 3 laps to go, with Ernie Irvin second and Shauna Robinson third. Dale Sr. and Morgan Shepherd were right behind them, and then Ernie Irvin took the lead coming to 2 to go, with Dale Sr. right behind him. Then on the final lap, the 3-time Daytona 500 champion was in the position to pounce, and he did. Going into turn 3, Earnhardt got to the inside of Irvin and went around him, leaving Irvin to dry on the outside, and Dale Earnhardt Sr. would go on to win duel number 1. As for the second duel race, this one was a little more active, as Rusty Wallace scored the pole for this race. On lap 8, we had a caution coming off turn 2 as Carl Long and Jerry Nadeau got together, going up into Rodney Orr and collecting the likes of Al Unser Jr., Ricky Rudd, Jeff Bodine, and Tommy Kendall, changing how this race was going to shape out. With that, Jeff Gordon led the field back to the green flag on lap 12. Tim Richmond would then take the lead a couple of laps later. Norm Benning, a surprise driver from last year's 500, was up in the top 5 at one point as he was racing for his own team this year. However, he did lose the draft and ended up in a second pack of leaders. But those leaders would eventually catch back up, thanks to the main lead pack being held up by lap traffic. With 2 to go, Tim Richmond and Jeff Gordon were battling it out as Richmond took the lead from Gordon. Then on the final lap, Gordon had the chance to strike as he went to the inside of Richmond in turn 3, but then got held up by the lap car of Jerry Nadeau, and because of that, Tim Richmond would hang on to win duel number 2 at Daytona. And with that, here are the list of all the drivers that failed to qualify for the 2000 Daytona 500. It's February in Daytona Beach, Florida, which can only mean one thing: the Great American Race, the Daytona 500. This one is certainly a well-anticipated race, with this being the first points race of the new millennium for the Winston Cup. 42 drivers are ready to go today for a chance at immortality and to put their names in the record books here at Daytona International Speedway. All of the off-season prep is over, It is time to go racing. The pace car dives down pit road. Alan Kulwicki and Rusty Wallace will lead the field of 42 to the start. Here we go. Here we go. Green flag. We're racing in the new millennium. Alan Kulwicki clears off turn 2 and takes the high line. That opens the door for the three-time winner of this race, Dale Earnhardt Sr., going after a fourth. 2 by 2 by 2 by 2 as they continue to build up speed as they head into turns 3 and 4. Earnhardt is going to get around Kulwicki now as he brings the 90 of Morgan Shepherd with him. Back to the start-finish line for the first time. Dale Earnhardt, the Intimidator, will lead the first lap. Listen to that. 42 cars at speeds of 190 miles an hour plus as they come off turn 2. Down the backstretch for the second time today. And here comes rookie Paige Jones, the son of Parnelli Jones, to the inside of Earnhardt, and now bring another Earnhardt with him in the form of Kelly. Off of turn 4, Paige Jones now leads the way. We have had rookies win the Daytona 500 before. Drivers such as Joe Nemechek and Shauna Robinson, they've done it before. Can Paige Jones, or perhaps one of our several other rookies that we have in this field, be next on the list to win the Daytona 500? There are some drivers who have been waiting years, some drivers who have been fortunate enough to win on multiple occasions, and some drivers still chasing that very first one. All 42 drivers, you're in this race, you have a shot to win one of the greatest races in the world, the Daytona 500. Meanwhile, it's Paige Jones, followed by Kelly Earnhardt and Dale Jarrett, coming off turn 4 and back to the start-finish line, as Kelly Earnhardt still chasing that second Daytona 500 after winning it in 1997. We are 1/7 of the way through this year's running of the Daytona 500 as Paige Jones continues to lead. But here comes Rob Moroso to the inside as they head into turn 1. Jones had led the last handful of laps, but now that's going to go to Moroso with Patty Moyes following suit. I'm sure she'd love to join Robinson and Kelly Earnhardt as female winners of this race. Rob Moroso has led for about 7 laps now, but as they head towards turn 3, here comes the shootout winner, Davey Allison, now looking to snap a winless drought in terms of points race wins. Allison battles Moroso here as Tammy Jo Kirk, with her new team Galaxy Motorsports, sits behind Allison. Here comes Roush Racing's newest driver, Mark Martin, the 1990 Winston Cup champion, who is looking to finally win the Daytona 500 as he gets past Allison for the lead. Looks like Martin's lead is not going to last for long as Alan Kulwicki dives down to the inside, and with help from rookie Matt Kenseth, the Polish Prince takes the lead, looking for his second 500 win in 3 years. It's a battle between rookies as Matt Kenseth battles with Tommy Kendall. Roger Penske is still missing that Daytona 500 win, but also Jared Farr is looking to shock the world with Tommy Kendall behind the wheel. Kendall takes the lead from Kenseth. We are nearing the halfway point in this race as Rob Moroso leads, but look who is in fourth place. That is the 84 of Norm Benning. We remember the surprise run that he made a year ago, and here he is again, driving for his own team. Now we see him following the 75 of Tammy Jo Kirk as Benning slides up into third now. Down the backstretch, and now Norm Benning is up to second. What a story we are seeing out of the Level Green, Pennsylvania native. We have reached the halfway point here in the Daytona 500 as Moroso leads with his teammate Jeff Green right behind him. RCR is looking pretty strong here as we see Jeff Green making a move to the inside of Moroso. Green has done a good job in that 31 car since replacing Neil Bonnet a few years ago, but now he wants to have a multi-win season and be a threat for the championship. Perhaps that dream can start today. Meanwhile, Kelly Earnhardt is now in the mix, as well as 1996 Daytona 500 winner Ricky Rudd, driving for that new team started up by Jim Brown and Willie Lanier, Celebrity Motorsports. Up front, Kelly Earnhardt goes to the inside, and she's going to take the lead. As she came close to winning this a year ago, she's trying to break a winless drought. Could today be the day? Green flag pit stops are underway as we see Brian Reffner of Team Menard pulling off pit road, and oh! Reffner slams into Dale Earnhardt Jr. as he was leaving pit road. That is heavy damage to the front end of the 13. Reffner may have gotten the worst of that one, and now he's going to have to go back down pit road to get that fixed. Tough break for that team. "30 laps to go, and it's an RCR 1-2 battle once more as Jeff Green battles Rob Moroso on the inside with help from the 17 of Terry Labonte. We have an interesting group of 8 cars up here in the front. How about a little right back at you as we see Rob Moroso to Jeff Green's inside? The two RCR teammates are trying to make Daytona their playground here today. Both drivers looking for their first 500 win, but still plenty of racing left to go. Moroso continues to lead as they approach the lap car of Brian Reffner, who's without a hood after that incident on pit road. You can tell he's definitely down on power, and Moroso gets away from everyone else. Meanwhile, the other leaders were massively held up. However, as long as they stick together, I am confident that they are going to catch back up to Moroso in no time. "15 laps to go as Kelly Earnhardt leads the way, and right behind her is Ricky Rudd. Rudd driving for that brand new team just for this season, as by this race next year, he will be in a Dodge for Ray Evernham. Rudd to the inside of Earnhardt, and he's going to take that number 63 Gatorade Pontiac to the lead. Rob Moroso definitely has the strongest car here, and we have 11 cars up here in contention, but they have approached Reffner again, and once again Rob Moroso runs away with it, and this time Reffner is really holding him up. He's been trying to stick with the pack, but he is down on power, and that's just not going to work for the 1998 Super Truck Series champion. 8 laps to go now. Everyone has caught up, and we even have new faces up front as Jeff Green leads. Shauna Robinson is up here, as well as last year's winner, Chad Little. Dale Jarrett could shock some people, as he's running up here in front too. Norm Benning now holds up some lappers as Jeff Green tries to take advantage of it. Pontiacs love to bring the excitement, and that's exactly what they are doing right now. Shauna Robinson gets some help from Chad Little as she gets to the inside of Jeff Green. Robinson shocked the world back in 1994 when she had just come off winning the Busch Series Championship, and now in 2000 she wants to win her second Great American Race. 3 laps remain in the Great American Race. Shauna Robinson is out in front, looking to win her second Daytona 500, and behind her on the inside, 2 Kennys, Kenny Brack and Kenny Wallace. What an incredible story for either of them if they could win this race. Kenny Wallace won the 1995 Brickyard 400. Kenny Brack, the Swede, coming from F3000, and now he's here in the Winston Cup, and he is just 2.5 laps away from potentially winning the Daytona 500, but he's got to deal with Shauna Robinson. Off turn 4, Robinson still leads, Brack second, Kenny Wallace third, Tammy Jo Kirk fourth, and Rusty Wallace is fifth. Rusty has done just about everything but win the Great American Race. Can today be his day? There's plenty of time left though. This is a 2.5 mile circuit as Robinson holds that inside line well. They come off turn 2, still leading the way. Who's going to make the move as we go on board with Kenny Wallace? Can he make the move on Kenny Brack as they go into turn 3? This could be huge for him, and he's going to do just that. Into turn 3 now. Kenny Wallace goes to second, and look who's pushing him. It's his brother, Rusty. Could we see the 2 Wallace brothers duke it out for the win here at Daytona? Back to the start-finish line. White flag for Shauna Robinson. Kenny Wallace gets around Brack. Rusty Wallace is up there in the mix. But you gotta remember, it's every driver for themselves. As I say that, there's Rusty Wallace going past Kenny Wallace. Ernie Irvin is there too, and Shauna Robinson is approaching that lap car of Brian Refner. This could get really interesting here as they go down the backstretch for the final time this afternoon. What's Robinson going to do? She dives to the inside, uses the 13 as a pick. Does Rusty Wallace have any time left? I don't think he does. Off turn 4. The crowd's going wild. She won it in 94. She's going to do it again. Shauna Robinson wins the Daytona 500 for the second time ever. She beats out Rusty Wallace for the win, and now she is a 2-time winner of the Great American Race. She shocked the world back in 94, but now as an established Cup driver and a champion, Shauna Robinson just keeps adding on to what has been a historic resume as you take a look at your final top 10 for the 2000 Daytona 500. And for Rusty Wallace, man, so close, but he has still not won the 500. He'll have to wait again next season, but still, we got 35 rounds of racing to go here. Who's going to be crowned the Winston Cup champion? In the next race at Rockingham, Rusty Wallace started on pole in this one, and he was lights out early with a thrilling battle behind. Alan Kowicki and Kyle Petty were the early cars on a mission, but rookie Matt Kenseth ran his way to the top 3 and left a statement that he could be the best of this stacked rookie class. Davey Allison and Shauna Robinson both had fast cars late, as Davey is having a great rebound to start his season. But Shauna Robinson had the best car and got around both him and Kyle Petty. A caution during the final round of stops for Tammy Jo Kirk and Chad Little changed the lineup a bit, with Kenseth and Jeff Gordon battling Shauna Robinson amid some lappers in the final run. Rusty Wallace showed how he had the best car of the day with a great run up to second, but that would be where he finished. For the second week in a row, he's runner-up to Shauna Robinson, who closes it out to open the season back-to-back. Then at Las Vegas, Jeff Gordon started on the pole with Kenny Brack in third. A very impressive start for him, though he wasn't much of a factor. Shauna Robinson was hot, looking for 3 in a row, but stealing the show was Matt Kenseth. The rookie took the lead during the first run and would take a big lead after first pit stops. Kenseth faded a bit in the long run and did a masterful job blocking, until about 25 to go, when Gordon and Irvin finally got by before final pit stops. Kenseth lost a bit of ground on the final stops, and the final run had a pack including Irvin, Gordon, Robinson, Moroso, Dale Sr., and Rusty Wallace exchanging top positions. Shauna ultimately got around Gordon, and Rusty followed her. It looked like we could have 3 fights between Shauna and Rusty in a row. While we came close, it wasn't meant to be, as RCR teammates Moroso and Earnhardt got around Wallace, and while they may have gotten the win in a few more laps, it wasn't enough. A scratch-off for 3 in a row. Shauna Robinson wins again. This is the second time a driver has swept the first 3 races, with Dale Earnhardt doing it back in 1988. At Sears Point, Jeff Gordon started on the pole and had the dominant car, leading most of the race outside pit cycles. We had one accident on pit road, taking out Rick Mast and Boris Said after they nearly went 3 wide entering pit road, hitting the wall but being inside the wall, keeping it green. Alan Kawicki ran second to Jeff Gordon much of the way, but never had a chance to make a move. Jeff Gordon wins in Napa Valley, the very track where he got his first career win back in 1994. Also of note, Bubba Nissen has a great run in third. After being the biggest career change in Sunday Night Lights, does he have one more win in him after a 3-year losing streak? At Atlanta, the top 2 from Sears Point ran up front early, with Kawicki on pole and Jeff Gordon beside him. While they battled early, this race would become one of attrition, a rarity for a non-plate race. Shortly before halfway, Dale Earnhardt got spun in turn 3 and started a chain reaction that took out the pole sitter Alan Kawicki, plus Paige Jones, John Nemechek, and Chad Little. Then soon after, we had a mess on the restart as the lap car of Jeff Bodine fired off well from the lap line, but on the backstretch, he suddenly had a problem, slowed and got spun by Darrell Waltrip, causing a big wreck that took out Rusty Wallace, Jeff Green, both DEI cars, Dale Jr., and a few others. After this mess, we had a clean race to the end between Sterling Marlin, Rob Moroso, and the rookie Matt Kenseth, with Sterling Marlin taking home the win. Also of note, while she did have some luck to thank, Kelly Williams comes home 12th in her Winston Cup debut. Louisiana was a calmer one after last week's shenanigans, as we had an RCR front row with Jeff Green and Dale Earnhardt leading early. Green had the best car of the day, but thanks to lap traffic, Sterling Marlin was able to catch up to him. However, Marlin couldn't quite get fully past the 31, and Green would take back a big lead after a flawless pit stop. Jeff Green would lead the entire second half en route to his first win of the season, with Ernie Irvan taking second after a long battle. Kelly Earnhardt takes 5th as she slowly looks to return to form, but her teammate Tony Stewart wasn't as lucky, having some problems with his car and finishing in 40th. We had an incredible race at Dover as Rusty Wallace started on pole and his teammate Matt Kenseth came along with him. This race was a wild one all around, starting with Shauna Robinson getting spun by Kenseth. On the restart, Kenny Wallace led by staying out with his brother Rusty behind him. Kenny Wallace fell in the start as expected, but we had an incredible moment where Rusty, Kyle Petty, and Jeff Gordon were 3 wide for the lead, and Petty came too far down and spun himself off Gordon from the front. He collected Paige Jones, Then Paige Jones got on his roof coming down the banking after being hit by Matt Kenseth and Joe Nemechek. Amid some splitting strategy, John Nemechek led the race in pursuit of his first win, while behind, Patty Moyes pursued him. Moyes took the lead in what was a short fuel run where many pit with 10 to go, but then we had a yellow with 7 to go where none other than Rusty Wallace had yet to pit and had taken the lead. In a bizarre circumstance, we had Rusty Wallace stay out as one of the 3 cars on the lead lap, the others being Moyes and Bubba Nissen with tires and fuel. Rusty was clearly down on power and dropped to let lappers by, but by God, he held on. Rusty Wallace goes back to back and wins at Dover on fumes. If we had one more lap, Bubba Nissen would have broken his 3-year losing streak, but Rusty Wallace pulled off the miracle, and he may have been the pole sitter, but it was nowhere near easy. The very next race at Road America was a wild one. Qualifying set a wild tone for this race as Dale Earnhardt started on pole, followed by rookies Paige Jones and Tony Stewart, then Patty Moyes and Ron Fellows in his first of 2 starts in the 4th Zapco car. 3 of our top 5 have 0 career wins. We had a bit of disorientation early after a lap 1 yellow for Kenny Wallace, but we had a road course thriller when things got going. After leading the race early, Dale Earnhardt had a slow stop and gave up the lead to Paige Jones with Tony Stewart behind. 2 rookies and Busch title rivals battling in the Cup Series. But on the second round of stops, that would change, as Stewart had his own rough stop and Ron Fellows leapfrogged him. In the late going, 2 drivers were battling for their first Winston Cup win, and one of them in his first start of the year, no less. Paige Jones had to hold off the closing Ron Fellows late in the race, including nearly using the bumper with a lap and a half to go. Ron Fellows was ready to strike, but couldn't make a move and ran wide every time. And regardless of who won, it was a first career win alert. And this one goes to the Bill Davis 93, from on his roof just a week ago to his first Winston Cup win. Paige Jones wins at Road America. Just like the Busch Series, he gets his first career win on a road course, and he takes down one of road racing's best to do it. Now we head to Darlington for the annual running of the Winston, a race where points is not a concern, but bragging rights and a $500,000 check for the winner is. Let's take a look at how it went down. Matt Kenseth started on the pole for the Winston Open, looking to continue his impressive rookie season, as Kenseth led for the first half of the race. But that was until John Nemechek took the lead and even held off a charging Kelly Earnhardt in the end. And for the 3rd year in a row, John Nemechek wins the Open and advances to the All-Star. Not only that, but a Nemechek has now won the Open in 4 straight years. Shauna Robinson and Dale Earnhardt led the field to the green flag to begin the Winston, as Robinson broke out to an early lead and led until the end of the first stage. Then, after the restart, it was Dale Earnhardt taking charge, as it appeared he had a fast car. However, luck didn't swing his way when he and other leaders had to pit close to the end of the second stage. With that, it came down to a pair of RCR teammates, Rob Moroso and Jeff Green. On the final lap, Green made the move at the right time as he passed Rob Moroso in turns 1 and 2 and taking home the $500,000 prize, winning the Winston. All 3 RCR cars ran together coming to the line, despite Dale Sr. being at the tail end of the lead lap. Stock car racing's longest night was marked by the impressive Cup debut of Adam Petty, who will run 3 or 4 races this year in the Team Sapco 47. Ernie Irvan was on the pole in this one, and it was an early battle between the AK Racing and Richard Childress Racing camps. We had all 3 RCR cars battle for the lead between Green, Moroso, and Dale Sr. with the 3 being the best in the long run. Alan Kulwicki tried to take the lead at a few points, but the Intimidator rode high in a calm, dominant race for his first win of the season. Dale Earnhardt's really continued his rebound after a disappointing last 2 or 3 seasons. Stealing the show, however, was Adam Petty, who despite starting 25th, steadily climbed all day to an impressive 6th. Team Sapco is being much slower with his development, but he's mighty impressive so far. The NASCAR Winston Cup Series has arrived to the Windy City at Chicago Motor Speedway, located in Cicero, Illinois. In front of a sold-out crowd, Jeff Green and Rusty Wallace led the field to the green flag as the city of Chicago welcomed the best racers in the world. Rusty Wallace would immediately take the lead from Jeff Green and pull away. The 4-time champion would lead until the first round of green flag pit stops. However, he would lose the lead. The lead would go to Jeff Gordon, hoping to bring home a home track win for McDonald's. Rusty Wallace would lose a few positions after his pit stop, and it looked like Jeff Gordon was not going to be stopped. That was until 3 laps to go, as Gordon held a 6-second lead over Kyle Petty. Jeff Gordon was working with a group of lap cars, and when heading into turn 1, Gordon was suddenly turned by the lap car of Eddie Pierswell. The crowd was in shock as they both go right into the turn 1 wall. It immediately took Jeff Gordon out of the race, and Kyle Petty would take the checkered flag in the inaugural Winston Cup race at Chicago, and one I'm sure that all those fans will remember for years to come. The June race at Michigan was an exciting one, as rookie Paige Jones started on the pole, as he and Alan Kulwicki led the field to the green flag. Bill Davis Racing ran 1-2 in the opening laps, as Paige Jones led with Jeff Gordon looking to rebound from the disastrous finish in Chicago a week ago. It's been a great season so far for Bill Davis Racing, as you see Paige Jones driving a paint scheme promoting the game Crazy Taxi. After that, it was back and forth between Shauna Robinson and Dale Earnhardt, as Robinson took the lead on lap 7. Then Earnhardt would lead for a while as he and Robinson battled. Then during the first round of green flag pit stops, we had some drama, as Dale Sr. and Sterling Marlin made a bit of contact coming off pit road, but would keep going. However, moments later, there was a miscommunication meltdown between teammates, as Patty Moyes accidentally turned Shauna Robinson up the track coming off pit road. Then, as Robinson corrected herself, Paige Jones slammed into the 40, collecting Matt Kidds at 2. Then as Jones came back down, he collected Dale Earnhardt Jr. and both SS Motorsports cars in the process. Schuniver, Nemechek, and Dale Jr. would keep going. Shortly after the restart, Jeff Green took the lead from Mark Martin, but then with 30 to go, the Penske Fords were out in front as Rusty Wallace led, then Marlin. Then, as the final round of green flag pit stops took place, Kyle Petty turned Tim Steele from 4th place, sending the 6 up the track and into Dale Earnhardt. Earnhardt had nowhere to go, and he gets taken out of the race, and as Steele came back down, Davey Allison slammed into him. In the closing laps, Kelly Earnhardt had the lead and was hoping to finally earn her first Cup win since her rookie year in 1997. She drove hard, but had a very fast 31 car of Jeff Green right behind her. Kelly Earnhardt fought hard, but with 4 laps to go, Jeff Green finally found an opening as he passed the 14 to take the lead. Jeff Gordon, Kyle Petty, and Rusty Wallace were all there as well, contending for the win, but then coming to 2 to go, Kelly Earnhardt surged past Jeff Gordon on the outside, now giving her a shot to win the race. On the final lap, it was Green versus Earnhardt. As down the backstretch, she jumped to the inside, but she wasn't able to make the pass, and Jeff Green would collect his second win of 2000. This also marks Jeff Green's first multi-win season of his career. The first Pocono race was a pretty calm race with a wild, fun finish. The big three drivers of the day were Shauna Robinson, Rob Moroso, and Sterling Marlin exchanging the lead all day. In the midst of lap traffic, Rusty Wallace caught them as well, but Sterling Marlin was pulling away thanks to better traffic management. Then with 7 laps to go, a caution came out during the final round of stops. Dale Earnhardt had just gone down pit road and was trying to stretch his fuel for the final run. With a restart with 2 to go, Dale Sr. blocked Marlin on the restart and got room. Marlin was faster, but Dale could block, and Rusty Wallace made it a 3-way fight. The two went side by side in turn 3 on the final lap, and Marlin finally got the run he needed to prevent Dale Sr. from stealing it in a side-by-side finish. Marlin picks up the win at the Tricky Triangle. For the first time ever, the NASCAR Winston Cup Series is racing in San Diego as Rusty Wallace led the field to the green flag to kick off the inaugural Dole Pacific 500. Wallace faced battles with Jeff Green and Shauna Robinson, but it's only fitting that the 2 car would run away with the victory in the inaugural Winston Cup race at the SoCal Speedrome. Alan Kawicki also had a notable race, climbing all the way to 15th after starting dead last. After faltering in the title fight the last 2 seasons, Rusty Wallace came alive to make this summer the summer of Rusty. Rusty Wallace would win again the next week at New Hampshire, then win the second Pocono race, and after a remarkable battle with Patty Moyes, Rusty Wallace would win the 6th running of the Brickyard 400 at Indianapolis and became the first driver since Cale Yarborough in 1976 to win 4 Winston Cup races in a row. After Indy, Wallace had a 252-point lead over Jeff Gordon as his drive for 5 was looking very promising. But with nearly half the season to come, anything can happen. Before we move on to the rest of the season, let's take a quick intermission to discuss the season's biggest off-track story, the return of Dodge to the Winston Cup Series. At the end of last season, we shared that Ray Evernham was leading the project and would be a team owner within their program. Over the course of the season, the big 3 of Dodge teams were announced. Let's talk about them and their implications on this season as well. To begin with Ray Evernham's own team, he will be partnering with someone we have already seen him work with before, Bill Elliott. Much like real life, Ray Evernham will be purchasing the Elliott Melling Marino team to create the Dodge flagship, with Bill and Casey Elliott coming into the program. Unlike real life, however, Bill will maintain a partial ownership role as a result of his success in NASCAR's lower series. Exact details are to come, but what can be said is that Bill Elliott and Casey Elliott will be getting much needed equipment upgrades in 2001. As for the second team to join the Dodge program, It belongs to a famous name in American motorsports, though he's new to the Winston Cup Series. That being Chip Ganassi, this year's Indianapolis 500 winning owner. In real life, Ganassi bought into the fading Sapco racing team, but needless to say, Felix Sabates stands on his own as a top owner in the sport. So, where does Ganassi's team come from instead? Chip Ganassi will purchase a different team in need of its next chapter. That being SS Motorsports. In 2001, the Speed Schoonover team will become Chip Ganassi Racing with Speed and Schoonover, as the two founding drivers transition into a smaller advisory role for the kart team owner. The 48-year-old Terry Schoonover, who achieved 5 Winston Cup victories in his career, announced that he will retire from full-time racing after the 2000 season. Though he does plan to run 2 or 3 races in 2001 as part of upstarting the Dodge program, amid the changing landscape of the sport, the time was right for the team to change hands. And lastly, rounding out the 3 Dodge flagships is a team with limited Winston Cup success, though they've become one of the greatest at developing drivers. Jarrett Favre Motorsports. While Dale Jarrett never found his footing as a driver at the Winston Cup level, he and his business partner have created an empire in the lower series. Dodge will bring them in to maintain this pipeline as well as create new opportunities for their Winston Cup program. Dodge made it clear that they will be shaking up the Winston Cup grid. Now the question becomes, who will drive the open seats for the program, and how likely are they to win right away? Time will tell. But for now, we need to see the rest of the 2000 season. Following Rusty's recent dominance, Watkins Glen provided us with an instant classic from the very beginning. Wallace's chance at 5 wins in a row ended on the first lap with a rare road course big one. Rusty Wallace and Jeff Gordon, our top 2 in points, got together in the S's and took out Rob Moroso and Sterling Marlin as well. Rusty continued, though he finished several laps down with damage, and the others were done for the day. To add even more chaos, the recent road course ace Alan Kowicki was in another wreck, causing Shauna Robinson to be the only driver in the top 5 in points to finish on the lead lap. As for what happened up front, Sapco showed once again that they're the most rounded team, with all 4 cars running top 10 for most of the race. But on the second restart, Ron Fellows managed to dive bomb Patty Moyes in the S's. Fellows was in control despite the chaos, though he had to deal with Moyes plus Ernie Irvan one more time after a final caution for Ricky Rudd breaking down in the S's to set up a 2-lap dash to the finish. Irvin tried to get a chance at him coming to the white, but he couldn't. For the first time in a long time, we have a road ringer upset in the Winston Cup, and who else but Ron Fellows, who didn't even get a race win in Stock GT this season, bringing home his first Winston Cup win at the Glen. A huge story amid the standings chaos that this race brought with it, and an instant classic on the road course. When everyone thought that Rusty had this season in the bag, there was one driver that stepped up to challenge him, that being our Daytona 500 winner, Shauna Robinson, as she had a hard-earned win at Michigan, beating Rob Moroso at the line in a close battle. Then she came close to winning the Bristol night race, but she came up short to the defending champion, Ernie Irvan, finally getting his first win of the season. The Southern 500 came down to a battle of veterans on a late restart. Dale Earnhardt and Kyle Petty went side by side for second, but neither could get a run on the leader, that being Alan Kowicki. He wins at Darlington for back-to-back wins for AK Racing. The 2000 Tyson 400 at North Wilkesboro had some tempers flaring for sure. Kyle Petty started on the pole. Meanwhile, Shauna Robinson started 41st and started driving to the field. The first caution came out on lap 30 when Wally Dallenbach turned the 75 of Tammy Jo Kirk right in front of the leaders. Petty led at the restart, but shortly after, there was another caution on lap 39 when Morgan Shepherd lost power, and with nowhere to go, Terry Labonte slammed into the 90 Then Dale Jarrett ran into Labonte, causing the 17 to flip over. Labonte would get back on his wheels and drive back to pit road, but his day was done. Kyle Petty continued to lead all the way to the next caution on lap 67 when Tommy Kendall turned Tim Steele into Casey Elliott. Then Kendall bounced off the inside wall on the front stretch, coming back up and collecting the other Elliott in the process. After that, Kyle Petty still led the way, but Sterling Marlin was right behind him in second. The next caution came on lap 90 when it nearly got 4 wide coming off turn 4 as Jeff Green sent Tommy Kendall into Dale Jr. Then Kendall went into pinball mode, getting into John Nemechek, Wally Dallenbach, and the 96 of Eddie Bierschwell. That wasn't all, as up ahead Tim Steele slid into Jeff Green, sending them both in the wall in turn 2. Right behind them, Tony Stewart moved Kenny Wallace, causing the 4 to hit the wall. After some leaders pit, the lead then went to Rusty Wallace. He led until almost 30 to go when Kyle Petty turned the 15 of Tony Stewart, and I'm sure he'll remember that. Sterling Marlin then took the lead and drove away with it, as his teammate Matt Kenseth was second. Marlin looked like he was about to lock up a win, and that was until the caution came out with 10 to go when Jeff Gordon turned the 97 of Chad Little. We restarted with 4 to go in what might have been a candidate for finish of the year. Sterling Marlin restarted with the lead, Matt Kenseth second, Ernie Irvan third, and Rusty Wallace in fourth. Marlin tried to drive away, but Rusty Wallace drove like he shot out of a cannon. Wallace passed Irvan coming to 3 laps to go, and then he passed Matt Kenseth, as Penske had a chance to finish 1, 2, 3. Then Rusty Wallace battled side by side with Marlin coming to the white flag. Super Rusty completed the pass on the backstretch, and he would drive away to steal the win at North Wilkesboro. Patty Moyes did get to third, breaking up the 1, 2, 3 for Roger Penske's team. The fall Martinsville race was an eventful one, as Nadeau started on the pole and Shauna Robinson led early, though her hopes to take a chunk out of Rusty's lead slipped with some lost positions and light damage. She would end up finishing 24th. As for the late stage of this one, Rusty Wallace and Jeff Gordon were running up front, battling for the lead, while Kyle Petty ran third, and in just his 3rd Cup start, Adam Petty running 5th in a 4th Sapco car. The race changed dramatically with a late caution right in front of the leaders when Tammy Jo Kirk got together with Rick Mast, taking out the lap car of Alan Kawicki and leading Gordon and Rusty nowhere to go. Rusty had some damage and had to pit, but stayed on the lead lap, while Gordon was out of the race. This set up a final restart led by Kyle Petty, Rob Moroso, and Adam Petty. Kyle Petty pulled away in a 3-lap dash, and Kyle Petty gets his 3rd win of the season yet again in dramatic fashion, while behind, his 20-year-old son Adam takes second. A stunning Petty 1-2 finish at the sport's most historic track. At the fall race at Lowe's Motor Speedway, Alan Kawicki led the field to the green flag and would lead for about the first 17 laps of the race. Then, Sterling Marlin would take the lead from him, and Kelly Earnhardt, who qualified well, made her way up to the front too. Then, on lap 25, Kelly Earnhardt took the lead from Marlin. However, this caused Rusty Wallace to reel them in. Then after the first round of pit stops, it was Sterling Marlin versus Kelly Earnhardt, as Kelly was doing everything she could to stay up front and contend. Marlin showed he had a better car, but even when she was passed, she fought back. She even took the lead back at one point, but lost it again. It was a tremendous battle between the 14 and the 22, as this helped the likes of Jeff Green and Rusty Wallace as well. Marlin then led to the next round of green flag pit stops, in which Jeff Green would then inherit the lead. Green was able to keep his distance between himself and Marlin all the way through, as Jeff Green was eyeing his 5th win of the season. until 8 laps to go in the race when Jeff Green's motor let go. His engine blew from the lead, he had a clutch problem, and like that, Jeff Green was out of the race, handing the lead and the win over to Sterling Marlin. On another note, Blaze Alexander made his Winston Cup debut, starting 10th, running towards the front for most of the race, and finishing an impressive 3rd place. I think it's safe to say he's ready for Cup next season. Patty Moyes was having a solid season, but so far she had gone winless. However, that would finally change at the next race at Talladega when she earned her first win of the season. Not only that, she would win back-to-back races as she picked up the win at Gateway as well. After Jeff Gordon took the checkered flag at Riverside, Shauna Robinson was 155 points back from point leader Rusty Wallace. Robinson has a chance here, but she would need a slip up from Rusty Wallace to really take advantage. And in the next race at Phoenix, she got just that. As Rusty Wallace was leading, his Miller Lite Ford goes up in smoke. He blows his engine at the worst time possible, decimating a comfortable points lead just like that. Meanwhile, Shauna Robinson was having a great run too, climbing to 5th and then 3rd after the pit cycle. Alan Kowicki took the lead and led most of the way. Shauna Robinson got close, but thanks to lappers, never got a run at the win. Kowicki takes home his 3rd win of the year, but more importantly, Rusty Wallace's points lead has been shaved back to just a few positions in an instant, with 2 races to go. There was plenty of drama in South Florida as Rusty Wallace started on the pole and led for the first third of the race. On the opposite end, Shauna Robinson started in 35th, but she was flying through the field, at times even looking faster than Rusty. She got to the top 10 by the time she had to pit for the first time. After the first round of stops cycled through, Dale Earnhardt took over the lead and no one was able to get near him. Earnhardt led all the way to the closing laps as this race turned into a fuel race, and heartbreak would strike for the number 3 team as Dale Sr. had to pit coming to 2 laps to go, and he would end up finishing 16th. This, however, handed the lead to Rob Moroso, who had not won all year. Rusty Wallace and Ernie Irvan did all they could do to chase him down, but it was Moroso picking up the win at Homestead. 37 points separate Shauna Robinson from the championship heading into Atlanta. Will it be Shauna becoming a 2-time champion, or Rusty Wallace completing the drive for 5? For the first time at Atlanta, we are under the lights as we're set to crown a NASCAR Winston Cup Series champion. As we look toward a fight between 2 of our sport's Goliaths, we also witnessed several stories highlighting the sport's past and future. Most notable is the final race for one of the sport's greatest ever, Darrell Waltrip, and he's got a special ride to boot. In addition to sponsoring their current driver, Casey Elliott, tonight, Mountain Dew returns to DW's team for a final ride throwback to his 1982 championship season. With 71 career wins, the 4th most in Winston Cup history, Darrell Waltrip leaves behind a legacy as he moves into broadcasting. At the same time, we see the final race for SS Motorsports as we know it, with Terry Schoonover's final full-time race coming at his home track. As we say farewell, we look toward the future, with our top 2 in the Busch Series, Blaze Alexander and Kelly Williams, each making another start today ahead of likely rookie campaigns in 2001. Patty Moyes and Dale Earnhardt led the field to the green flag to begin the Napa 500. Dale Earnhardt would lead the opening laps of the race, while Rusty Wallace and Shauna Robinson, who started 5th and 6th, worked their way to 2nd and 3rd. Eventually, Rusty Wallace would take the lead from Earnhardt, then Shauna Robinson would lead for a bit, as both drivers were able to grab 5 bonus points for leading a lap. After the first set of pit stops, Rusty Wallace took over the lead, while Kyle Petty and Shauna Robinson were not too far behind. Shauna would need to get a move on if she wants to win her 2nd championship. The next set of pit stops happened around lap 61 of the 115-lap race, with Rusty Wallace kicking things off. Then, on lap 66, we had our lone caution of the race when Bobby Hamilton ran into Jeremy Mayfield coming off pit road together, causing Hamilton to slide up the track into Jeff Gordon, who slams into the 10. Matt Kenseth and Rob Moroso were also involved, and this wreck would take out all of Hendrick Motorsports as well. After the restart, Wallace and Robinson would end up 1st and 3rd, almost the opposite of how they finished to open the season in Daytona. Shauna then caught Rusty and took the lead, but right as she did that, Rusty Wallace backed away, going down pit road to begin the final round of pit stops. It was as if Shauna wasn't able to react to it, and Rusty being a few steps ahead. In the closing laps, Rusty Wallace was pulling away. However, Shauna Robinson wasn't done yet. She made a huge surge on the outside to pass Bubba Nissen and Blaze Alexander with 10 laps to go. 3 laps remain in the season as Rusty Wallace leads, Alan Kawicki 2nd, and Shauna Robinson in 3rd. Shauna's going to need a miracle at this point if she wants to win the title. As long as that 2 is up there, her chances are very slim. 2 to go now. Look at Shauna Robinson. She zooms past the 7 of Alan Kawicki. She's really going to go for the win here. She's got a lot of speed, but can she chase down Rusty Wallace and even perhaps get in his way one more time to close out the season? Through turns 3 and 4, we're coming to the white flag, the final lap of the 2000 Winston Cup season. And here they come. Rusty Wallace leads them back to the line. Here comes Shauna Robinson to the inside. Robinson is going to steal this one as they come off turn 2. She's going to take the lead from Wallace, and she just had to get in Wallace's way one last time. Just like how the season started in Daytona, it's going to end the same way in Atlanta. Robinson 1, Wallace 2, and even though it's not going to be for the championship, it'll be a good way to finish off the season. Shauna Robinson wins at Atlanta, and Rusty Wallace is your NASCAR Winston Cup Series champion for 2000. The drive for 5 is complete. Rusty Wallace continues to be one of the most dominant drivers currently in NASCAR, and you can't help but wonder, could he potentially be in the mix for 6, or even go for a 7th championship? While Robinson came up close, she said after the race, quote, "I did everything I had to do, but Rusty hit his marks like he always does. He earned it. I just didn't have the luck on my side today, but I had to get lucky to even reach equal footing. It was good to beat him in a race one more time. I'll be running to congratulate him on stage though, because he earned the cup. He may be the best driver, but we've got the best team. We'll run him down again next year and see what happens." And here's the final top 5 in standings as Rusty Wallace wins the championship over Shauna Robinson by 27 points. The full list of winners and the full standings will be shown after the international exhibition. With the championship dust settled, we close out the 2000 season with the international exhibition in Brazil. 26 entrants will race across Fittipaldi Speedway at Autodromo PK outside Rio de Janeiro. Our field is made up of the top 15 in Winston Cup points, along with 6 other invitees from NASCAR and 5 South American drivers. 3 of our feeder series champions are in the field. Busch Series champion Blaze Alexander in his 02 for Penske, Truck Series champion Chris Trickle in a one-off 3rd AK Racing car, and Super Sportsman champ JD Gibbs will drive his father's number 17 in his unofficial Cup debut. Also in the field are last year's Busch champ Tony Stewart, Kelly Williams, and the upset special Ron Fellows in his first Cup race on an oval. As for our guest drivers, the biggest story stems from Team Penske, who dominated the American motorsports scene in 2000. In celebration of their kart championship, they're going all out with a 5th and 6th car as one-offs today for a pair of Brazilian drivers. Kart champion Gil de Ferran will drive the number 01, while Helio Castroneves will run the 03. Additionally, Brazil's stock car champion Chico Serra will drive the Hendrick 46. The Indy 500 champion Juan Pablo Montoya, a native of Colombia, will drive for Chip Ganassi, with this being his first Winston Cup race as the new owner of SS Motorsports. He will drive an unbranded Chevy car for the number 85 team. And last but not least is the home country hero. Formula One legend Ayrton Senna will be entered in a 3rd car for DEI, the number 19 compact Chevrolet. A season unlike any other for NASCAR wraps up with a race unlike any other. And it comes at a time where the sport's outreach to the globe is growing faster than ever. And standing at the corner of it are two of open wheel's greatest teams, a dominant Team Penske and a newcomer in Chip Ganassi, ready to build for his grand entrance next season. Shauna Robinson and Sterling Marlin led the field to the green flag in front of a sold-out crowd in Rio de Janeiro. It was an exciting start as there was a 3-wide battle for second on the opening lap. Then Kyle Petty surged on the outside to take the lead, but got loose off turn 4 and Jeff Gordon zoomed past for the lead. Then, just a couple laps later, Patty Moyes would take the lead from Gordon. The first caution came out on lap 20 for debris, as most of the leaders would pit. I say most because Matt Kenseth took over the lead, with Helio Castroneves second, Sterling Marlin third, and Wallace fourth. Kenseth suddenly had an issue as Marlin pulled away, but in the back, there was a stack-up between Blaze Alexander, Kelly Earnhardt, Senna, and Kyle Petty. Sterling Marlin went to pit, handing the lead to Jeff Green as he leads Paige Jones and Chris Trickle back to the green flag. Paige Jones immediately took the lead, but Chris Trickle was the one to lead coming back to the line. Trickle is really impressive here today. Then, one lap later, Ernie Irvan took control of the lead. Just past halfway, Shauna Robinson ran into Gil de Ferran as he was coming off pit road to bring out another caution. Irvan still led at the restart, but quickly lost the lead to Jeff Green. Green now had control, but had to hold off all 3 AK racing cars in the race. Then, with 14 to go, we had major drama as the lead pack of cars got held up by the lap car of Ayrton Senna. Then, going into turn 3, Jeff Green had to check up, causing Ernie Irvan to slam into Green and collecting Alan Kowicki in the process. However, Kyle Petty and Chris Trickle were able to escape as Trickle took the lead coming back to the caution. After pit stops, Rob Moroso took the lead with Paige Jones in second as the race restarted with 9 laps to go. Moroso was not able to get past the lap cars, giving the lead to Paige Jones. He, Robinson, Trickle, and Kelly Williams were able to break away. As that went on, Alan Kowicki turned the 22 of Sterling Marlin, sending Marlin spinning to give us a late restart. We then had a 3-lap dash to the finish as coming to the restart, Paige Jones had problems. He ran out of gas and wasn't able to get back going and loses out on a chance to win. Kyle Petty, who didn't have a hood, now has the lead as he led JD Gibbs, Shauna Robinson, and Chris Trickle back to the green flag. Coming back around, Chris Trickle was on the move. Going into turn 1 with 2 to go, he takes the lead, looking to stun the racing world. Chris Trickle then led the field to the white flag, but here comes Rob Moroso from out of nowhere. The outside line has been the preferred line all race long as he soars past the 42, and coming into turn 3, he was side by side with Chris Trickle. Rob Moroso powered past him to take home the win in Rio. What a race and what a finish. And finally, Here are all the winners and the final standings from the 2000 NASCAR Winston Cup Series season. Rusty Wallace finished the season with 7 wins, Shauna Robinson had 6, Jeff Green had 4, and Alan Kowicki, Kyle Petty, and Jeff Gordon, as well as Sterling Marlin, had 3. And as you look at your final standings, it's definitely become more of a competitive field. As you take a look there, and a lot of drivers are going to be hungry to improve going into 2001. Rusty Wallace is a new kind of star to the sport. He started on the USAC and ASA circuits, moving from a star of the Midwest to becoming NASCAR's most dominant driver. And perhaps it's fitting that a new kind of NASCAR star has dominated with a new kind of team. Roger Penske has shown that NASCAR's success isn't just for the traditional Southeastern owner. Instead, NASCAR can be part of a diverse motorsports empire. At the 2000 Winston Cup Awards banquet, Rusty spoke highly of his team and his competitors, saying, quote, "What does greatness truly mean? A 5th Winston Cup undoubtedly shows driving talent, but it doesn't say enough about the impact I try to leave for this team and the impact it's left on me. Roger and every single person he employs, including myself, are part of one organization that dreams of becoming legendary. Shauna Robinson and Felix Sabates are the same way. So are Ernie Irvan and Alan Kowicki. It takes a whole team to get a driver to legendary status. You all can call me a legendary driver, but I'm more honored to be on this legendary team. It's our 4th cup together, and I know we can win a couple more, and a win at Daytona somewhere along the way." Can he catch Richard Petty's 7 championships? After all, Rusty looks set to win even in his 40s, and he's won just about everything there is to win in this sport. Except for one thing. After falling just short to Shauna Robinson this season, Rusty Wallace still has yet to win the Daytona 500. He may be beating Shauna Robinson in the title fight, but his fellow Midwesterner has taken 2 wins at the Great American Race. Perhaps, after his own several years of trying and several years of frustration, Rusty is due to finally cash in on NASCAR's biggest race. It's quite ironic, isn't it? And that's a wrap on 2000, the first chapter in the book of a new decade. With the introduction of new tracks and a deep Cup rookie class, the new millennium is the start of a new era. Yet at the same time, we're still wrapping that many would say is NASCAR's golden age. Darrell Waltrip just wrapped up his historic career, and we're slowly approaching the end of several historic careers, including those of Dale Earnhardt and Alan Kowicki. Rusty Wallace continues his pursuit of becoming NASCAR's greatest ever, and Shauna Robinson has made herself a fellow Midwestern superstar and Rusty's biggest rival. Yet at the same time, new names are emerging quickly. Some of them have won in the Winston Cup, and others have first career wins that are sure to come soon. All of that, combined with the return of Dodge and team shakeups that will come with it, will bring the sport into a new age in its own right. The Sunday Night Lights story began in 1981. We've rewritten 20 years of racing history, and we're still a quarter century away from the present day. Both in this series and real life, NASCAR has spent its entire history evolving. Despite being a sport known for its tradition, it's always beat to its own drum and isn't afraid to be different from other motorsports. It's a sport built on the backs of rebellion against the norm, and perhaps being a sport unlike anything seen before is what the world needed at the sport's peak, and what it also needs now. The year 2000 was a key year for the world, the gateway to a future full of change and opportunity. Where will NASCAR and the world at large go from here? As is tradition, all of the original paint schemes made for this season will be released on Stunod and Armory Digital soon. There are also going to be plenty of alternate paint schemes available for download as well, including some that were not seen in this video. Furthermore, you'll also be able to download the all-new stock GT templates and Super Sportsman templates created by RoseJam. The Super Sportsman compact templates for Cup 98 have been out there for a few months without the series branding, while the MCLM Euro templates for the stock GT are all new. Thank you so much again to them for their work bringing those series into a new era. We recently released a 2000 update to Louisiana Motor Speedway, and right after this premiere ends, we'll be releasing SoCal Speedrome, the brand new track you just saw, and an updated version of Talladega Motorsports Park. I can't wait to see you all use them in action. And thank you again to RoseJam for their work building the tracks and Jets Racing Designs for the creation of the track's graphics. I'm also excited to share that we're kicking off summer with a new drop on my merch store inspired by the 2000 season. We have 3 new designs available: the 2000 Tour design inspired by the season at large, the Racing History Rewritten design commemorating 20 seasons of Sunday Night Lights featuring all 20 champions, and Ring 'em, a design commemorating Rusty Wallace's 5th title. All proceeds from merchandise help me bring forward my vision of celebrating why we love racing, so any and all support is an honor. And with that, we are 20 seasons in. This project started 5 years ago, and it's been incredible to see the sport evolve, often for the better in that time, both in 20 fictional years and 5 real years. Sports evolve, much like the world evolves. When the year 2000 arrived, I bet no one expected we'd see another 7-time champion, or street circuit, or 2 different seasons with a record 19 winners. Just like they didn't expect the internet and other new technologies to bring the world together and inspire new creators through websites like the one you're using right now. Where will the 21st century take NASCAR? We saw the first quarter of it happen before our eyes. Now, let's see where it takes a whole different NASCAR in Sunday Night Lights.
Needed to put this program on solid ground. And at this time, I'm not going to make you wait any longer. I'd like to introduce you to the first driver of Evernham Motorsports,